Chapter 248. Tiger Soul Across the Sky. The golden light from the blade swept out in an instant. Although it was just an ordinary blade move, he had not been wasting his time in the past few years. He had fused the imprint of the peak understanding of power with his mind and continuously comprehended the peak feeling. He had also continuously comprehended the terrifying killing move, the death of the gods and demons. His understanding of blade techniques had improved by leaps and bounds. When he swung the Tiger Soul, he had a feeling that he could sense the trajectories of the heavens and earth. When he swung the blade according to these trajectories, there would naturally be a mysterious power of the heavens and earth in the blade. Those trajectories were the trajectories of the heavens and earth. Following the trajectories, the power of the heavens and earth would naturally be applied to the blade. This was the embodiment of using a martial skill to trigger the power of the heavens and earth. Being able to reach this step meant that Shurtian's blade techniques had already started to transform into a battle technique. Although it was the simplest blade technique, it could touch the power of the heavens and earth. This was already no longer ordinary. When the blade swept out, as the Tiger's soul cut through the sky, the power contained in the blade increased tremendously with every inch the blade moved. In the heavens and earth, a mysterious power appeared in the blade as it danced. With the addition of the power of the heavens and earth, when the blade was swung out, it was as if the entire world was only filled with this resplendent blade light. Vaguely, all of the living beings who saw this saber had a feeling that they were unable to contend against it. Bang, bang, bang! The Tiger Soul's blade slashed towards the heavens and met the heavenly phoenix fire that could burn all things without backing down. The phoenix plume technique was a magical art. Magical arts were formed by triggering the power of the heavens and earth. It could be said that magical arts were the power of the heavens and earth. Shurtian's blade had already entered the realm of battle technique. What was a battle skill? Martial cultivators were the most powerful group of cultivators because they had those powerful battle skills, which were also known as martial skills. Once they successfully cultivated their battle skills, every punch and every kick would contain the power of heaven and earth. When the move toppling the mountains and overturning the seas was used, the people who faced this move would feel as if they were really in front of the mountains and seas. It was as if the mountains and seawater would destroy them in an instant. This was not an illusion. When the battle technique was used, it was real. He could recreate the power of heaven and earth. What martial artists cultivated was their own body. They were particular about the world of heaven and earth. The human body was a world, and one's body was one with heaven and earth. When one cultivated to the peak, one's combat strength was practically world-shaking. There was practically no existence that could obliterate their bodies. They were powerful and overbearing to the extreme. From this, it could be seen that Shurtian's blade had already begun to move in the direction of ancient demon cultivators. When the blade was used, it contained the power of heaven and earth. When the Tiger Soul and the countless feathers formed by the phoenix plume technique collided, there was a terrifying explosion. The blade's light and flames burst out in an instant. In midair, they constantly collided. The surrounding air began to show strange waves of air. The terrifying waves of air crushed everything in the surroundings. You actually have such a powerful battle skill, and your blade technique has reached such a realm. However, it's not like I haven't seen martial cultivators before. No matter how powerful your blade technique is, it can't be compared to my magical arts and magical treasures. Wang Fenger's complexion changed again. She didn't expect that Sakra's blade technique was actually so impressive. However, this made her heart even more intensely murderous. With a flash of light in her hand, a vermilion bead strangely appeared. This bead had balls of flames flowing inside like flowing water. Fire Phoenix Heavenly Pearl, condense. After taking out the fire pearl, she threw it in front of her without hesitation. Her hands quickly formed a spiritual seal. After the spiritual seal was formed, it quickly entered the fire pearl. Howl! Suddenly, a phoenix cry filled with the aura of an emperor rose from the bead. Then, countless crimson flames suddenly spewed out from the bead. These flames were incomparably blazing. As soon as they appeared, the entire air instantly turned abnormally red. It was as if the air was about to burn. The surrounding flowers and plants were ignited on the spot. Once the flames were ignited, the flowers and plants immediately turned into ashes. The ashes completely destroyed them. Not only the top, but even the roots buried deep underground were instantly incinerated. It was no longer possible for there to be a scene of "the wild grass can't be burned, and the spring breeze will bring it back to life." It was completely destroyed. After the flames were spat out, they did not spread in all directions. Instead, they quickly gathered around the pearl. In the blink of an eye, countless flames completely enveloped the pearl, and after the flames gathered together, they started tumbling about in a strange manner like flowing water. Under the violent fluctuations, almost in the blink of an eye, a firebird wrapped in flames condensed. The appearance of this firebird was also very different from other birds. Its body naturally exuded the arrogance of a king. It had the head of a chicken, the chin of a swallow, the neck of a snake, the claws of an eagle, the tail of a fish, the back of a turtle, and the feathers of a peacock. Combined together, it was the king of birds. Phoenix! Legend had it that there were 5 major types of phoenixes, namely the scarlet vermilion bird, the green swan, the yellow swanee, the white swan, and the purple swanee. The firebird in front of him was completely wrapped in flames, and was completely red. It went without saying that it could be said to be the legendary vermilion bird, but it could also be called the fire phoenix. Once the fire phoenix was formed, it immediately let out a high-pitched cry. Its gaze was fixed on Tion. With a fierce flap of its wings, 2 scarlet tongues of fire instantly burned mercilessly toward Tion like lightning. These flames were even more frightening than the heavenly phoenix fire from before. They were the flames of the vermilion bird. If touched, even a nascent soul cultivator's body would be destroyed in an instant. Even a nascent soul cultivator would find it difficult to escape. Kill. So what if it's a phoenix? So what if it's a vermilion bird? Take my tiger soul's sharp edge. Tion's eyes, unknowingly, had actually emerged traces of blood red. He revealed a cold, killing intent toward the mysterious vermilion bird. With a wave of his tiger soul, he took another step forward. This time, he stepped in the air. Mysterious ripples appeared in the air. His saber moved with him. Each slash carried the power of heaven and earth, and it was incomparably sharp as it slashed toward the vermilion bird formed by the pearl. Roar! At this moment, not only Sakra, but the other monster kings were also fighting with the 9 cultivators. Obviously, they were sneak attacked by that strange, bewildering powder, which sealed and suppressed a portion of the monster chi in their body. However, how could the monster race be affected by a little seal? Instead, it aroused their ferocious nature, and they all fought with each other, which was truly incomparably fierce. This was especially true for the Black Ape King. This black giant's strength was simply earth-shattering. He didn't even need to reveal any other technique. He simply revealed his true form and became as tall as a giant. Claw after claw, he slashed at the cultivators in front of him. Each claw contained an incomparably frightening strength. The female cultivator in front of him was so frightened that she threw out hundreds of Vajra defensive talismans. These defensive talismans were destroyed by a single claw. One by one, they were destroyed like balloons. It was truly terrifying. The other beast kings were also incomparably ferocious. They fought against the core formation cultivators and were not at a disadvantage at all. Instead, they relied on their own ferocious strength to gain the upper hand. In addition, Tion and Chi Hua's group all erupted with powerful battle strength at this moment. If they were alone, they wouldn't be able to fight against the core formation cultivators. However, when the 3 of them gathered together and attacked together, they were able to fight with splendor. Their innate battle instincts were all aroused. However, there was one person who didn't move from beginning to end. That was Medusa. Medusa was still standing in the valley, with the vermilion bird by her side. Although her eyes were fixed on the battlefield, she had no intention of making a move. She simply guarded her position with the mirror in her hand. While watching the battle, she also paid attention to the situation in the valley. It could be seen that she was treating herself as the last line of defense. Anyone who wanted to harm Chern, she would have to face her existence. Sister Medusa, these cultivators are really despicable and shameless. Last time, they took advantage of your tribulation. This time, they took advantage of my sister's tribulation. They only know how to do such shameless things. However, that net is so powerful. Although the stinky crow is cold, he's even more powerful than that black guy. He's actually trapped in the net and can't get out until now. What exactly is that net? The vermilion bird widened its eyes and looked around angrily. When it swept its gaze over the large net, it couldn't help but cry out in surprise. In the net, the underworld crow king led the flock of crows to continuously attack the large net, wanting to break it. However, it didn't know what the net was made of, but it was unimaginably tough. It emitted a strange light, and those attacks couldn't damage the Great King technique. For a while, it couldn't break through at all. It was really strange. Don't worry about that. Sister, she has already started the last tribulation. We'll stay here and make sure no one rushes in to disturb her. Look, big sister, she's original body is starting to appear. Medusa's attention was always on the tribulation in the valley. The battle outside the valley was incomparably fierce, but the heavenly tribulation in the valley would not stop just because you were fighting. The eighth bolt of heavenly tribulation had long since descended. That bolt of heavenly tribulation was truly terrifying. It bombarded the 100-flower formation, and in an instant, an incomparably terrifying power erupted. Lightning and fire filled the sky. Under the mighty heavenly might, the 100-flower formation and the heavenly tribulation were annihilated at the same time. The moment the 8th heavenly tribulation disappeared, the 9th heavenly tribulation descended upon Chen-Shi. Chen-Shi's eyes had closed without anyone noticing. His face was emitting a glittering glow. Right at this moment, a strange crack appeared in the void in front of her. Chapter 249. As soon as the crack appeared, thousands of rainbow-colored rays of light shot out like a tidal wave and spread in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the entire valley was completely covered by the rainbow-colored rays of light. In the rays of light, there was an indescribable strange fragrance that constantly wafted out. It was extremely peculiar. In the blink of an eye, it reached the noses of all living beings. It was a mysterious fragrance that they had never smelled before. However, everyone who smelled it instantly felt as if their entire body and mind were placed in an incomparably wondrous state. In that instant, the most beautiful things in their memories involuntarily appeared in their minds. Their bodies and minds were intoxicated by it. It was as if their minds were cleansed in an instant. After smelling it, one would feel relaxed and happy. It was as if they were unwilling to wake up. Once they smelled it, they would never forget it for the rest of their lives. What exactly is this fragrance emitting from? Amidst this fragrance, all the demons and cultivators who were fighting could not help but stop at this moment. They could not help but look in the direction of the fragrance. Almost no one blinked their eyes when they saw it. Sakura was no exception. The tiger soul in his hand stopped in midair just like that. His eyes looked towards the valley, and he couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression. What exactly is this flower? I have never seen it before. It's so mysterious, so mystical. Could it be that this is Chen-Shi's original body? A burst of muttering came out from his mouth, but his eyes were fixed on the situation in the valley. After the crack appeared, a flower that emitted rainbow-colored rays of light suddenly appeared. The fragrance that they had never smelled before was emitted from this strange flower. As for this strange flower, it attracted everyone's attention not only because of its fragrance, but because it was an unimaginable existence. This flower was 3 feet tall. There was a flower at the top. The flower had 7 petals, and each petal had a different color: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. The 7 colors competed to shine on the petals, making it exceptionally beautiful. The flower seemed to contain an astonishing beauty. At a glance, one could not help but feel a sense of delight and fondness. This flower seemed to contain the unique aura of all the flowers in the world: nobility, grace, elegance, pride, and so on. If one carefully sensed it, one could clearly feel the aura of all the flowers in the world. It was truly incomparably magical. Moreover, that was not all. What was truly unimaginable about this strange flower was that the 7 petals on the flower were not unchanging, nor were they static. Instead, after the rainbow-colored rays of light bloomed, they all began to wither in an instant. The red petals began to wither, then the orange petals, and in the blink of an eye, they all withered. However, this flower did not completely wither. Instead, every time a petal withered, a new petal would be born. It bloomed, withered, and bloomed again. This cycle was endless and continuous. With a single glance, one would be able to see the flower bloom and wither. New life and wither happened in an instant. Moreover, the moment the petals withered, the life force within the petals seemed to be completely released in an instant, creating an astonishing beauty. This was all the life force of a new life being released in an instant. With the beauty of life blossoming, how astonishing was that! And with this endless cycle, the life force continued to circulate between new life and wither. Not only was it not consumed, it instead became even more powerful. This flower bloomed with an instant of brilliance. The brilliance that bloomed with life was naturally peerlessly beautiful and earth-shattering. It was likely that there was nothing in the world that could compare to it. It could be said to be an instant of youth. Beauty, even if it was only for an instant, would last forever. It's really it. This legendary instant divine flower really exists. The legend is true. There really is such an incredible strange flower in the world. When true Lord Ku Rong, who was hiding in the ancient tree, saw the appearance of this strange flower, his eyes immediately shone with a shocking light. He could not help but feel ecstatic. Nowadays, the demon clan and even the human clan cultivators did not recognize this divine flower. However, who was he? He was a person whose cultivation base reached the heavens after the ancient times. He was the type of ancient cultivator who was closest to the ancient times, so how could he not know? It was precisely because he found some clues and felt that there was such a possibility in his heart that he stayed here and did not leave. He was waiting for this moment to undergo the tribulation. Now, he was finally able to confirm his guess. It was indeed the divine flower that he had predicted. The instant divine flower was also known as the instant of youth. What was the meaning of an instant? It was a short moment, but this flower implied that an instant was the true meaning of eternity. An instant was eternity, and eternity was an instant. Therefore, the petals of the instant divine flower were constantly blooming and withering, blooming with unparalleled beauty. Chen Shi's body could be said to be the spiritual root of the world. This was because the birth of the instant of youth was something that no one in the world could predict. No one knew what kind of opportunity it was under to be born. Legend had it that in the reincarnation of this strange flower, there was the true meaning of an instant of eternity. If one could comprehend it, their cultivation base would advance by leaps and bounds, and they would have a chance to step into the ranks of the legendary peerless powerhouses. If one swallowed the entire flower, not only would they instantly increase their cultivation base by tens of thousands of years, but they would also have a chance to obtain the heaven-defying divine ability, the instant of youth. Its divine power was so miraculous that even the peerless powerhouses would be tempted. However, fortunately, if one wanted to obtain the miraculous effects, they would have to swallow the instant divine flower before it transformed. Otherwise, once it transformed, the instant divine flower would completely merge with Chen-Shi. The power of the divine flower would also become her power. Whether it was the essence of tens of thousands of years or the heaven-defying divine ability, the instant of youth, they would all be obtained by Chen-Shi. If Chen-Shi had been able to use the power contained in the divine flower from the very beginning, there would not be many people in the world who could be her match. Of course, even after the complete fusion, the power of the divine flower would not be instantly obtained by her. She would still need time to grasp and absorb it. However, the speed at which she could do so would be unimaginably fast. It could take 10 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years. If nothing went wrong, the power of the divine flower would allow her to advance all the way to the magical realm of a great demon or even a demon saint. The heavens are on my side. Know-it-all, you probably never dreamed that I would be able to find such a rare treasure like the instant of youth even though I was severely injured by you. Once I swallow it, not only will my injuries be healed, but I might also have a chance to obtain the legendary heaven-defying divine ability, the instant of youth. At that time, it'll be time for me to settle the score with you. True Lord Ku Rong stared at the divine flower without blinking. Wisps of grayish-white divine light slowly appeared on the surface of his terrifying body that resembled rotten wood. His heart, which had been almost still all this time, began to beat strangely. His chest began to rise and fall continuously. Wisps of life aura began to condense on his body. However, a large amount of life essence from the ancient tree he was in was rapidly pouring into True Lord Ku Rong's body at an unimaginable speed. The leaves on the ancient tree began to wither at a speed visible to the naked eye. The ancient tree's enormous life essence was rapidly being sucked away. After the instant of youth appeared, it immediately began to approach Chen-Shi's body and appeared in front of her. A strange thing happened. Countless roots immediately swept toward Chen-Shi as if they were alive. Speaking of which, when the roots touched Chen-Shi's body, they did not wrap around her. Instead, they directly entered her body as if they had completely fused with her. That's great. Sister Shi's original body is currently fusing with the body of an elf. Once all the flowers enter her body, she can completely transform and pass the 19 demon tribulations. When Medusa saw this, she could not help but reveal a sincere smile. She did not know what Chen-Shi's original body was, but she could see that it was extraordinary in that instant. She also knew that this was Chen-Shi's weakest moment. However, she did not have any thoughts of betrayal. Instead, she was sincerely happy for her. Bang! At this moment, an ancient tree beside Chen-Shi suddenly withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. During this period of withering, the trunk of the tree exploded on the spot. A strange hand that looked like rotten wood and looked like a layer of skin wrapped around a pile of bones suddenly reached out from the tree at lightning speed. This withered hand flickered with a grayish-white divine light and grew inch by inch. In almost the blink of an eye, it became incomparably long and slender. It burst into the shape of a claw and clawed at the divine flower in front of Chen-Shi. "How dare you, thief!" Medusa let out a shrill cry. Her eyes suddenly emitted bursts of colorful light. The aura on her body was abnormally terrifying. "Who dares to hurt my sister? Zhu will fight it out with you." The vermilion bird cried out fiercely. With a flap of its wings, a layer of crimson fire fiercely emerged from its body. "You're courting death!" Di Shirtian's eyes suddenly widened in anger. Without hesitation, he spun the tiger soul in his hand. The demonic chi in his body crazily poured into the saber like a tidal wave. A continuous golden saber light that was more than 100 feet long was mixed with the power of heaven and earth. It ferociously slashed at the withered claw with the saber. Wherever it passed, the air in front of them faintly emitted terrifying roars, as if it was about to collapse. What happened in this instant was completely out of everyone's expectations. No one would have thought that there would be someone hiding in an ancient tree without being discovered. Instead, at this critical moment, they suddenly interfered and attacked, wanting to take away Chen Shi's real body. No one was prepared for something like this. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, they could only watch as the withered hand attacked Chen Shi. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 250. The unforeseen event happened so quickly that it was beyond everyone's expectations. No one would have thought that true Lord Ku Rong, who had ulterior motives, would be hiding at the side at this moment. What was even more unexpected was that he would attack Chen Shi's main body right away. He was decisive and vicious. One had to know that Chen Shi's main body had not completely transformed yet. Once it fell into the hands of others, it would be equivalent to completely controlling Chen Shi's life and death. The severity of the consequences could be seen. This is a good opportunity. Everyone attacked together. When Wang Fenger saw that Sakura had also followed to block that withered hand, she instantly realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime good opportunity. She shouted out delicately and called out to the other cultivators to launch another attack. Moreover, she even took the lead to drive that vermilion bird and fire phoenix in midair, pulling out a resplendent flame in the air as it swept towards Sakura with a howl. She was actually going to take this opportunity to launch a sneak attack from behind and burn Di Shirtian to ashes. Kill! The battle that had stopped temporarily suddenly started again. Moreover, once the battle started, it entered a white-hot situation. All the Monster King's eyes turned red in an instant. Their bodies emitted a violent aura, and they were like crazy demons. Every attack they launched was ferocious and terrifying. Brothers, kill! Kill all these despicable and shameless cultivators. Brother D, block them. You must not let Monster King Chen Shi get hurt. The Black Ape King's eyes turned blood-red. His two ape claws beat heavily in front of his chest, and an extremely violent aura surged from his body. He roared, "Damned cultivators, I'll show you my divine ability today. Pinch the sun and the moon." Seeing that Chen Shi was actually attacked, the Black Ape King flew into a rage. At this moment, he finally did not hold back the innate divine ability that he had not used before and used it without holding back. One had to know that as a king among monsters, the necessary condition was to have one's own innate divine ability. Without divine ability users, they were ordinary monsters. However, if they had divine abilities, they would be monster kings. Every king's divine ability was extremely mysterious and powerful, and the Black Ape King was no exception. He roared and stretched his right claw forward. In an instant, his ape claw became abnormally different from before. There was an unbelievable power in his palm. It was as if this ape claw was infinitely large and contained infinite power. When it stretched out, even the sun and the moon would be tightly grasped in his hand. He took it down from the sky. The claws contained an earth-shattering power. Everything in front of the ape claws felt as if the space around them had suddenly solidified. They felt as if they were being imprisoned. When they saw the ape claws, it was as if the world was suddenly pressing down on them. He didn't even have the slightest bit of resistance. He could only watch helplessly as the ape's claw got closer and closer to him. Ah! In front of the claw was the female cultivator. At this moment, her face was filled with fear and panic. She wanted to dodge, but for some reason, she felt that the space around her had completely froze. No matter what, she could not move at all. She could only watch as the ferocious ape claw expanded in front of her eyes. With a shrill scream, the female cultivator was grabbed by the Black Ape King's claws and held in a death grip. Kill! The Black Ape King coldly spat out the word kill ruthlessly. He squeezed his hand hard. Immediately, the female cultivator in his hand was crushed into minced meat on the spot. Countless pieces of flesh and blood flew out in all directions. Immortal cultivators cultivated their primordial spirit. How could their physical bodies compare to that of monsters? How could they resist the Black Ape King's killing blow? She was crushed on the spot. Seventh junior sister, sorrowful cries came from the group of cultivators. Seeing the Black Ape King crush a female cultivator to death, they were scared out of their wit. Their eyes were almost spitting fire. They gritted their teeth and threw countless spells and talismans in all directions. Instantly, the entire battlefield entered a white-hot state. Bang! In the valley, the intensity of the battle had reached an unimaginable level. When they saw the withered hand, the only ones who could react in time were Medusa, the vermilion bird, and D. Chertion. Medusa's eyes shone brightly. An invisible force burst forth from her eyes. Following her gaze, everything in the space in front of her suddenly lost all vitality and turned into pieces of hard stone. This force quickly landed on the withered hand. A layer of gray stone shell appeared on the withered hand. After the stone shell appeared, it quickly spread to the entire hand, trying to petrify the withered hand. Medusa's eye. This innate ability was extremely terrifying. It could be said to be an extremely terrifying ability. If one was not careful, they would really be petrified. It was almost impossible to restore them. Even if there was a way, it would be difficult to reach the heavens. All along, it could be said to be successful. In the entire southern barbarian lands, there was almost no monster that dared to be rude to her. However, at this moment, it seemed that she could not use its power. It's actually the eye of Medusa. The southern barbarian lands are really blessed by the heavens. They even have Medusa, as expected of the famous treasure land in the ancient times. The power of petrification is indeed powerful. Unfortunately, it's still a little lacking for this true lord. Break! A strange person walked out of the ancient tree. He looked like a piece of rotten wood. There was no expression on his face. He looked like a piece of withered wood. He clicked his tongue and laughed strangely. He saw the stone shell in his hand. A layer of grayish-white light flashed on his arm at a high speed. The gray light contained a strong vitality and a terrifying aura of death. When they intertwined, a powerful force exploded. Crack! With a crisp sound, countless cracks strangely appeared on the surface of the stone on the arm. The cracks rapidly spread, and the stone shattered into countless pieces and fell to the ground. However, the withered hand was not damaged at all. It was truly frightening. Watch me burn your ghostly hand with the vermilion flame. 2 crimson flames spurted out from the vermilion bird and wrapped around the withered hand. The power contained in the flames could burn the stone into ashes in an instant. Withering glory transformation! True Lord Ku Rong shrieked, and the grayish-white light on his arm suddenly changed. The white light disappeared, and the grayish-white light suddenly flourished. When it collided with the vermilion fire, it actually extinguished the fire just like how fire and water collided. It took a long time to describe, but everything happened in the blink of an eye. True Lord Ku Rong was really extraordinary. Even if he was severely injured, the strength in his body was almost the same as that of a late-stage core formation cultivator. However, he was still able to unleash such a powerful combat strength. His magical powers were immeasurable. It should be known that if an ordinary core formation cultivator encountered Medusa's petrification or the domineering vermilion bird primordial fire, they would be greatly injured. Especially petrification, if they were not careful, they would turn into stone on the spot and their vitality would be completely extinguished. However, in front of true Lord Ku Rong, it was not effective at all. Roar! The tiger's soul blade emitted an astonishing tiger roar. The golden blade light slashed down towards Ku Shou with lightning speed. With the sharpness of the tiger soul, even if it was made of fine iron, it would still be sliced into 2. Humph! My body has long become incomparably hard. Who can cut it? Wait until I get the instant divine flower, then I'll play with all of you. When true Lord Ku Rong saw the dazzling saber light, he could clearly feel the power of heaven and earth contained in the saber. It had a terrifying power and was unusually sharp. However, the cultivation technique that he cultivated had long cultivated his body to be as tough as a piece of wood. It was as tough as a diamond and was incomparably tough. Looking at the instant divine flower in front of him, he was confident in his body. Chun Shi's speed of merging with his original body was very fast. He was afraid that if he delayed, he would miss the only chance to get the instant divine flower. Therefore, he did not pay much attention to the tiger soul. He quickly covered his arm with a layer of grayish-white gas, and his claw-like claws appeared in front of the instant divine flower. Soon, the divine flower will be mine soon. True Lord Ku Rong screamed crazily in his heart. A dazzling divine light burst out from his eyes, revealing traces of strong desire and greed. In his mind, he could not help but imagine all kinds of ideas after he got the instant divine flower. When he thought of the happy parts, he could not help but reveal a smug smile. Bang! However, just as his withered hand was about to touch the instant divine flower, Di Shirtian's tiger soul, which was filled with boundless power, slashed heavily on his arm. On the spot, a terrifying roar exploded. Following that, a terrifying scene appeared. Countless sparks burst out from the place where the arm collided with the tiger soul's sharp blade. It did not look like an ordinary body of flesh and blood at all. The arm was so tough that it had reached an unbelievable state. However, the tiger soul was a tiger soul after all. Its sharpness was unmatched in the world. It was refined using the indestructible body. In addition, almost half of Di Shirtian's demonic vitality was poured into it, causing its sharpness to become even more terrifying. Even diamond would be cut open by it. In an instant, the tiger soul still cut into his arm but did not cut it off. After the tiger soul passed, a wound could be seen on his arm. Very little blood could be seen on the wound. How dare you injure this true lord? Wait till I get the divine flower, I'll tear you to shreds. Clearly, perfected Lord Ku Rong did not expect Tiger Soul to be that sharp. His expression changed as he spat out those harsh words. However, he did not slow down at all as his target was Chun Shi's body from the beginning. At this point, his palm was less than a centimeter away from the moment God flower. A ferocious expression appeared on his face as he unceremoniously grabbed at the divine flower. Dawn's true body was about to fall into his hands. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 251. Bang! Just as Medusa, Vermilion Bird, and Di Shirtian were unable to stop true Lord Ku Rong's withered claw from reaching out for Chun Shi's body even after using all their strength. When the withered claw was about to touch the instant divine flower, true Lord Ku Rong could not help but smile faintly. Facing the instant divine flower, even a peerless expert would be tempted. However, it was obvious that he was happy a little too early. Although Chun Shi was still going through the last inner demon tribulation, his body instinctively felt a strong threat when he was fusing with his body. His body was a divine flower, and no one could say that they completely understood the mystery behind it. Sensing the life-threatening aura, the divine flower instinctively burst forth with a mighty force. On the divine flower, the 7 petals that were constantly blooming and withering suddenly paused. During this pause, the 7 petals suddenly released a shocking divine light at the same time. In an instant, eternal light bloomed. The 7 petals dissipated at the same time, but when they dissipated, the divine light that burst forth strangely fused together to form a 7-colored lotus flower. The lotus flower rotated, and the 7-colored divine light sprinkled down like the divine light of the sun and moon. It landed on the strange withered claw. Ah! A shrill shriek instantly soared into the sky. True Lord Ku Rong's eyes were filled with disbelief as he stared at his palm. Subsequently, his palm turned into the shape of a saber, and a ruthless look appeared on his face. He swung his saber at his right hand, which he had stretched out, and slashed it down from his shoulder. Poof! True Lord Ku Rong's body had become extremely tough under the endless cycle of 9 changes of life and death. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was an indestructible body. In his flesh and blood, there was both the aura of death and the endless vitality of glory. The cycle of life and death was endless. Therefore, every time he cultivated 9 changes of life and death, the aura of life and death would repeatedly temper his flesh and blood. Therefore, after countless years, his body became as hard as wood, but it was also extremely tough. However, at this moment, he gritted his teeth and chopped off his left arm without hesitation. It was difficult for others to hurt him, but it was easy for him to chop off his arm if he wanted to. Thud! The severed arm fell to the ground and a strange scene appeared. A strong aura of life burst forth from the severed arm at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, it withered rapidly. In the blink of an eye, the entire arm had turned into a rotten branch and rotten wood. All of his life force dissipated in an instant and returned to the world. Fleeting youth brilliance. Is this the fleeting youth brilliance of the legends? It's fleeting time brilliance. I didn't expect the divine flower's main body to have such a protective means to protect itself. It's a divine flower indeed. True Lord Ku Rong cried out in horror. The moment the divine light landed on his arm, a strong threatening aura flashed wildly from the bottom of his heart, causing him to chop off his arm without hesitation. The scene in front of him also proved that he did the right thing. If he had not acted decisively, he would not only have lost an arm, but his entire body would have been annihilated and turned into a piece of rotten wood. In his consciousness, he instantly guessed that the divine light must be the legendary fleeting youth brilliance of the legends. In an instant, it would cause the target's life to completely evaporate and lose his life. Naturally, he would be truly annihilated, and even his spirit would not be left behind. It was terrifying. Haha, good. The stronger you are, the better. After I consume you, I'll definitely gain great benefit. Divine flower, I suppose such a divine flower can only be used once. In that case, you're mine. True Lord Ku Rong was overjoyed. Given his experience, he understood in the blink of an eye that there would not be a second such protective means. After all, it was not controlled by Chen Shi. In other words, the divine flower was already placed in front of him and could be obtained easily. Without thinking, he moved his right hand and tried to grab the divine flower again. If you want to touch Sister Shi, you'll have to ask if Medusa agrees. This change happened in a short moment, but it could not escape the eyes of Di Shirtian and Medusa. However, at this moment, a vermilion bird covered in flames pounced ferociously from behind Di Shirtian, and he had no choice but to use his mind to block it. Medusa made the first move, and her slender legs instantly turned into a 7-colored snake's body. With a swing of her body, she swept toward True Lord Ku Rong without holding back. With a swing of her tail, it turned into thousands of snake shadows and attacked True Lord Ku Rong's body. Spirit Snake Flurry. At this moment, countless snake shadows appeared in the sky, twitching their bodies crazily. Every attack was extremely powerful. Under the snake's body, the air was shaking violently, as if it could collapse at any time. When this move was made, a frenzied aura gushed out crazily. It was as if the space was about to collapse and be annihilated by the countless spirit snake. That kind of concept caused True Lord Ku Rong's expression to change slightly. Humph! How dare a puny core formation realm demon be so presumptuous in front of me? Do you really think that I'm like a tiger that has fallen from the sky just because my cultivation is no longer there? Break! True Lord Ku Rong's expression was cold as he glanced at the instant divine flower. When he saw that the divine flower's fusion speed had suddenly increased, he knew that this was a sign that she was about to overcome the inner demon tribulation. He did not have time to tangle with Medusa. He had been waiting for this opportunity for no less than hundreds of years. Soul-searching claw. His remaining right hand suddenly turned into a claw. With a slight shake, countless sharp claws appeared in the surroundings. With a strong aura of death, they coldly grabbed at the spirit snakes that were waving in the sky. Claw shadows instantly filled the entire sky. The sharp claws swept across the sky, and even the air was torn apart. His physical body was incomparably strong, and he displayed an extremely profound combat skill. Although countless snake shadows attacked, they were all caught by the sharp claws in an instant and torn to pieces on the spot. At the same time, a huge seven-colored snake tail was grabbed by True Lord Ku Rong's right claw and firmly seized. He said coldly, "Although I'm down and out, I'm not to the point where I can let you little demons show off in front of me. Whoever stands in my way will die." As he said that, he exerted force with his right claw, and waves of gray death aura burst out of his claw. He was planning to crush Medusa's tail into pieces with one claw. However, Medusa was not an ordinary person. The demonic primordial chi in her body churned violently and madly poured into her body. Almost in the blink of an eye, a burst of colorful light burst out of her body. Under the light, the densely packed snake scales suddenly glowed with colorful light and became abnormally hard. When the claw grabbed the snake scales, it was so terrifying that bright sparks burst out. Then, with a flash of light, the snake's body suddenly shrank and withdrew from the claw at lightning speed. Bang! Just as True Lord Ku Rong's expression turned serious and he was about to reach for the divine flower again, the sharp tiger's soul emitted a bright golden saber light that carried the power of heaven and earth. It slashed heavily on his right hand. A soft sound rang out and sparks flew. The sharp tiger's soul forcefully cut open a small wound on the terrifying withered hand. However, no blood flowed out from the wound. "It's you again." True Lord Ku Rong was almost driven mad. His hand was so close to touching the divine flower, but it was blocked by Di Shirtian and Medusa again and again. His expression could not help but become unusually ferocious as he roared, "You juniors, if you ruin my plans, I'll skin you alive." He stomped his foot on the ground. Swoosh! With him as the center, countless terrifying vines immediately swept toward Di Shirtian and Medusa like countless spirit snakes. There were so many of them that they almost blotted out the sky. Moreover, each vine seemed to have a life of its own. It was really terrifying. In an instant, Di Shirtian and Medusa were completely engulfed in the endless vines. There were sharp thorns on the vines. Obviously, it would not be a pleasant feeling if they touched it. There should be no one who can stop me now. True Lord Ku Rong glanced coldly at Di Shirtian, who was in the vines. The vines were all 1,000-year-old vines that were unusually tough. No one could walk out of it easily. Not necessarily. Sakra coldly spat out a sentence. Suddenly, a jade zither appeared in front of him. On the jade zither there were 9 strings. Looking at the vine, without a trace of hesitation, his left hand domineeringly waved on the zither. Ding dong, ding dong. At this moment, he still could not be bothered about the loss of his demon vitality. Waves of demon vitality gushed out of the demon refining cauldron and poured into his fingers. When he waved the zither, he kept pouring it into the zither strings. Immediately, crystal-clear sound blades condensed on the zither strings like a tide and shot out in front of him in an instant. The sharpness of the sound blades was immeasurable. Moreover, when the sound blades swept out, they vibrated violently and produced unparalleled power. Wherever the sound blades passed, the 1,000-year-old strange vines were instantly cut into countless pieces. He forcibly cleared a path through the boundless vines. Patter! Di Shirtian moved along with the sound blades and left the sea of vines in the blink of an eye. he appeared in front of true Lord Ku Rong. However, he did not use Tiger Soul immediately. Instead, he smiled coldly. You said that I can't stop you. Let's see if the heavenly tribulation can stop you. Tribulation transcendence. He glanced at Chun Shi behind him and saw that Chun Shi was merging with his original body at a speed visible to the naked eye. He thought to himself, as long as I can hold on for a while, and by some time, Chun Shi will be able to survive the heavenly tribulation and completely transform. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 252. There are things a man should do and things he shouldn't do. Today, as long as I'm still alive, anyone who wants to hurt Chensi will have to step over my dead body. Although he had not been in contact with Chun Shi for a long time and had only met her for a short period of time, the things that he had obtained from Chun Shi could not be measured with money. There was no need to say this out loud, and he would always remember it in his heart. If they had not met, it would have been fine. But now, Chun Shi was in danger right in front of him. Under such circumstances, if Sakura had the slightest hesitation, how would he have the face to call himself a king among the demons, and how would he have the face to save his mother? Although true Lord Ku Rong's abilities only lasted for a short while, Yangming had a clear understanding of them in his mind. He was definitely an ancient cultivator who had survived since ancient times. His physical body was even tougher than a demon's body. Although he did not look like a human or a ghost when he cultivated this technique, the 9 changes of life and death could be considered a peerless mystical technique. His body was as tough as diamond, and even Tiger Soul could not break his body. He had a strange set of combat skills and divine powers, and they would have to spend a lot of effort to break through it with just 1 or 2 moves. Moreover, this was when he was injured. If he was at his peak, he would be a terrifying figure who could kill them with just a finger. They would be courting death if they fought with an old monster who had survived since ancient times with their combat skills. Although Sakura could tell that true Lord Ku Rong's cultivation base was only comparable to that of a late-stage core formation cultivator, if they were to really fight, Sakura could guess that true Lord Ku Rong would lose more than he would win. Who knew what other strange tricks true Lord Ku Rong still had? If he was careless and allowed true Lord Ku Rong to obtain Chun Shi's body, it would be a huge mistake. After thinking about it, Di Shirtian could only think of one way. He would use the heavenly tribulation to block the path and stop perfected Lord Ku Rong for a while. Given the power of the heavenly tribulation, perfected Lord Ku Rong would probably still be wary of it. As long as he could delay it for a while and wait for Chun Shi to completely merge with his real body, he would definitely be able to turn the situation around when Chun Shi woke up. You're crazy! A hint of horror flashed through true Lord Ku Rong's eyes, and he shouted, You want to attract the heavenly disaster? I'll kill you first today. The withered claw in his hand moved like lightning towards the Sakura's throat, bringing with it a thick deathly aura. When it reached out, it was silent, but its speed was unimaginably fast, like a shooting star passing by. In a flash, it had already appeared before the Sakura's throat. He could see Di Shirtian's level of cultivation clearly. If it were any other time, he wouldn't be surprised even if it was the 19 demonic tribulations. However, it was different now. Once the heavenly tribulation was triggered, given the distance between the two of them, he would definitely be covered by the demonic tribulations. Once the demonic tribulations were triggered, Chun Shi's demonic tribulation had not yet ended. The 2 heavenly tribulations stacked together. The power of the heavenly tribulation would probably double in an instant. By then, the demonic tribulations would envelop both Di Shirtian and Chun Shi at the same time. If he wanted to attack Chun Shi again, he would have to go through the heavenly tribulation. However, what was the heavenly tribulation? It was the majesty of heaven and earth. Given his current strength, he would definitely be affected if he entered. Once he was affected, he would definitely be delayed. By then, he wouldn't have any chance to attack Chen-Shi again. It's too late, Di Shirtian spat out coldly. With a turn of his feet, he moved his body to the side and raised Tiger Soul in his hand. It appeared at the position where his throat was previously. The sharp blade of Tiger Soul shone with a golden light. It was swallowing and exhaling continuously, looking unusually bright. From his body, he released his powerful aura without any hesitation or reservation. Billowing demonic chi rose like smoke signals, shooting straight into the sky. The purple king mark on his forehead flickered at an astonishing speed. Every time it flickered, an oppressive pressure gushed out like a tidal wave, spreading in all directions. The demon refining cauldron in his demonic abode spun at an unprecedented speed like lightning. Round after round, the speed of the demon refining cauldron reached its peak, forming a crystalline vortex around the jade cauldron. An incomparably tyrannical king's aura gushed out like an avalanche, completely erupting without holding back. The demonic liquid in the demon refining cauldron had become extremely sticky. It was as if it would solidify at any moment. Rumble! Indra's cultivation had already reached the peak of the demonic beast realm. As long as he released his cultivation and chi, he would be able to attract the demonic tribulation at any time. Now, the demonic tribulation of the Kingdom of Dawn had yet to come into contact with the demonic tribulation of the Kingdom of Dawn. Almost at the same time, the demonic tribulation of the Kingdom of Dawn condensed in the sky and intertwined with the demonic tribulation of the Kingdom of Dawn, forming a huge black demonic tribulation cloud. The size of this tribulation cloud was even larger than when Chen-Shi was undergoing the tribulation. Countless lightning bolts flashed crazily within it, intertwining with each other and emitting a bright light and a mighty roar of thunder. As the thunder roared, endless pressure poured down like a tidal wave, continuously pressing down on Di Shirtian. When the heavenly tribulation overlapped with the heavenly tribulation, its power was not inferior to any of the 19 heavenly tribulations. Moreover, Chen-Shi was undergoing the last inner demon tribulation and was about to end. The power of the heavenly tribulation naturally did not have much of a deterrent effect on her. Almost all of the pressure fell on Di Shirtian. Thick lightning bolts danced like spiritual snakes, shuttling back and forth in the tribulation cloud. Damn Junior! The mighty pressure completely shrouded the surrounding heavens and earth. All living beings within the tribulation cloud were under this pressure. Perfected Lord Ku Rong was right beside Di Shirtian, so this tyrannical pressure naturally fell on him as well. It felt as if countless pairs of eyes were staring at him. Rumble! He took a step forward, and the tribulation cloud immediately seemed to be pulled by a great force. Countless lightning bolts flashed and gathered together. A bolt of lightning as thick as a bucket, shining with golden light, blasted down from the tribulation cloud with a crack. It was so fast that no one could dodge it, and it hit perfected Lord Ku Rong's shoulder heavily. The tribulation cloud contained mighty heavenly might. This tribulation cloud was the divine thunder of gung metal. Once it fell on his body, the lightning bolts immediately turned into countless sharp golden sabers and golden swords, slashing wildly at perfected Lord Ku Rong's entire body. The situation was no different from being cut into pieces. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's clothes were cut into countless pieces almost immediately. They turned into butterflies and drifted away. Di Shirtian quickly glanced at him, and could not help but be amazed. This perfected lord was really amazing. Not only was his face like a block of wood, but his entire body was also like an ancient tree that had grown for countless years. It was the same withered scene. When he was looking at him, a strange thought came to his mind. I wonder if his thing down there has also decayed. This cultivation method is really sick. I didn't expect that I would undergo the tribulation cloud under such circumstances. A hint of mockery appeared at the corner of his mouth. This could be said to be a battle that he had no confidence in winning. The power of the 2 demonic tribulations had more than doubled out of nowhere. This was not a transformation demonic tribulation, but a 19 heavenly tribulation. Damn, Junior, you've spoiled my plans time and time again. You want to undergo the tribulation cloud? Dream on. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's eyes quickly scanned Chen Shi's body. This glance immediately made him look sad and indignant. 1/3 of Chen Shi's original body had been completely integrated, and the remaining parts were being integrated rapidly. His plan to seize Chen Shi's original body had been completely ruined. He had waited in this valley for hundreds of years, waiting for that moment just now. He had been waiting for the moment before he succeeded in one fell swoop so that he could soar freely in the future. However, he did not expect that a group of juniors that he did not care about in the past would spoil his plans time and time again. Now, he could only watch as his hundreds of years of hope was completely destroyed in front of his eyes. An indescribable grief and indignation directly surged to his head. A light flashed in his hand and a grayish-white withered wooden staff appeared. As soon as the wooden staff appeared, grayish-white light flickered back and forth on its surface. Withered staff, oh withered staff! I originally wanted to let you slowly recuperate for a few thousand years to recover from the damage you suffered back then, but now I have no choice but to use you to teach a group of juniors a lesson. If this had happened back then, we would have lost face if word got out, so today, all the lives here will die. Perfected Lord Ku Rong gently stroked the wooden staff, and the corners of his mouth twitched a few times, looking unusually ferocious. An endless aura of death spread wildly throughout the entire valley. Unknowingly, a gray mist had appeared in his eyes. When one looked at it, one would feel a sense of fear and trepidation. Swoosh! At this moment, Chen Shi's original body in front of him rushed into his body at lightning speed and completely merged with it. At that moment, a beam of 7-colored divine light suddenly burst out from his body and shot into the sky, forming a dazzling divine pillar. Within this divine light, Chen Shi's body seemed unusually holy. The unique temperament of countless flowers constantly rose and disappeared at the speed of hundreds of changes in every breath. Her body seemed to have the temperament of any flower, and it also seemed to have been sublimated, revealing a kind of astonishing beauty. In an instant, she bloomed with boundless beauty that no one in the world could compare to. At this moment, she was the most beautiful existence in the world. Vaguely, the shadow of a 7-colored divine flower appeared around her body. It was the appearance of the moment God flower. Its petals continued to wither and regenerate. It kept spinning, and it looked very noble. Unknowingly, her beautiful eyelashes fluttered gently, and her eyelids opened gently. 2 rays of 7-colored divine light shot out from her eyes, constantly flowing and changing. It was as if her eyes contained the mysteries of eternity in an instant. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 253. Although there was desertion between them, Chen Shi's gaze seemed to be able to fall on true Lord Ku Rong clearly. With a hint of indifference in her eyes, she opened her red lips and said, "Before Chen Shi underwent the tribulation, there was a strange omen of danger. At first, I thought it was those foreign cultivators, but I didn't expect that the danger had always been by my side and had been hiding in the ancient tree for hundreds of years. They wanted to seize my real body." Although she was undergoing the tribulation, her real body had always been outside. After the fusion, everything in the valley became clear to her, and she could not help but feel a deep sense of anger. There was actually an enemy hiding by her side for hundreds of years, and the other party's goal was to seize her real body. This was simply a great shame and humiliation. This kind of hatred could almost be raised to the level of being absolutely irreconcilable. Tsk. It's a pity that my hundreds of years of waiting were ruined by these juniors. However, I can only take a step back now. Since I can't get your real body, I'll capture you and bring you back. Since you've just fused with your real body, I can use the dual cultivation technique to seize half of the essence in your body, which can be used to heal my injuries. True Lord Ku Rong looked coldly at Chen Shi. In his eyes, Chen Shi was a living tonic. If he could get his hands on her, his injuries would be healed. The best situation was naturally to seize Chen Shi's real body. That way, with the power of the divine flower, he could heal his injuries that were almost irreparable back then and even obtain a heaven-defying divine power. However, Di Shirtian had stopped him again and again, causing him to fail on the verge of success. What he wanted to do now was to take a step back. He looked up at the sky. The tribulation cloud was black and oppressive. Its range was so large that it emitted a mighty heavenly might that was above Chen Shi's 19 demonic tribulations. One could imagine that this demonic tribulation must contain an inestimable and terrifying power. Once the thunder tribulation descended, it would be incomparably terrifying. Crack! This was because the tribulation cloud was triggered when Chen Shi was undergoing the tribulation, causing the heavenly tribulation's brewing time to become unusually short. Di Shirtian originally used the heavenly tribulation to block True Lord Ku Rong for a short while so that Chen Shi could safely undergo the tribulation. When he saw that Chen Shi had woken up, he was completely focused on this heavenly tribulation. Although he secretly smiled bitterly at the unusually powerful heavenly tribulation this time, he did not give up, nor did he have any thoughts of giving up. Although the demonic tribulation is strong, it doesn't mean that I, Di Shirtian, can't pass it. He was to take a step back to recover his demonics. Was it quickly, his demonic chi-s to recover? Be quickly to recover to recover to his demon vitality. Of it, and she to recover was to recover his, Shan's to grip to his, unknowingly, his other hand had already landed on the storage bag at his waist. Hearing the sound of thunder above his head, he quickly looked up and saw that the tribulation cloud was tumbling and 3 golden Gung Jin heavenly thunderbolts were striking down. There were 3 people standing in the area of the tribulation cloud. Being guided, the heavenly tribulation would not care if they were innocent. 3 bolts struck down at once, and they were all aimed at Di Shirtian, Chen Shi, and True Lord Ku Rong. Chen Shi, hurry up and leave. This is my demonic tribulation in human form. You'll be attacked if you stay here. Di Shirtian saw the reddish-gold heavenly thunderbolts smashing towards him like a spirit snake. Previously, he had seen True Lord Ku Rong being hit, so he knew that the Gung Jin heavenly thunderbolt was the most terrifying type of attack among the 5 elements heavenly thunderbolts. He shouted and quickly patted his waist. His storage bag flashed and an aqua-blue flying sword appeared in his hand. Explode! As soon as the flying sword appeared, Di Shirtian quickly infused a stream of demonic vitality into it. Then, with a thought, the flying sword immediately flew towards the heavenly thunderbolt above his head. Bang! The flying sword blocked above his head at lightning speed. Countless sharp sword lights burst out and collided with the Gung Jin heavenly thunderbolt on the spot. The flying sword was a middle-grade magic weapon. However, he did not pity it at all. The moment it came into contact with the heavenly thunderbolt, he shouted decisively. The flying sword exploded violently. When it exploded, countless sword lights that were full of destructive power suddenly burst out. A middle-grade magic weapon suddenly exploded and blocked 20% of the heavenly thunderbolt's power on the spot. Bang! Di Shirtian did not care about this at all. 2 more flying swords flew out from his hands. As soon as they came into contact with the heavenly thunderbolt, they exploded on the spot. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 magic weapons exploded in his hand. Each of them was a middle-grade magic weapon. He used the magic weapons to forcibly destroy the first heavenly thunderbolt. Shirtion, the shape-shifting demon tribulation, is not to be experienced outside. You have to rush into the tribulation cloud and use your demon body to resist the heavenly thunderbolt. The longer you resist, the better. Once you can't resist, the lightning inside will devour your demon body. During this process, don't resist. Let your physical body disperse and divide into flesh and blood. Then, use your consciousness to control the flesh and blood to devour the heavenly thunderbolt. The more you devour, the better it will be for you in the future. Finally, use your willpower to gather the flesh and blood and reform your physical body. Visualize the form you want to shapeshift and you will naturally shapeshift. Remember, during this process you must not lose your consciousness. You must stay awake. Otherwise, you will be bombarded into powder by the heavenly thunderbolt. She looked at the heavenly thunderbolt that was bombarding him. There was no worry in his eyes. A 7-colored light flashed in his hand and a flower basket appeared in front of him. He threw the flower basket over his head. The flower basket was woven from beautiful and delicate flowers. At this moment, it bloomed with all kinds of colors at the same time. It was beautiful beyond compare. There seemed to be a strange suction force in the flower basket. It immediately sucked the heavenly thunderbolt into the flower basket, causing countless golden lightning to burst out from the flower basket. They kept moving around, turning into sharp blades and swords, wanting to destroy the flower basket. However, it was unknown what the flower basket was. It was not damaged at all. Instead, it kept spinning and there were countless colorful lights flowing back and forth inside. The flower basket spun 9 times in the air. When it stopped again, the heavenly thunderbolt that was originally in the flower basket did not move at all. The flower basket turned into a ray of colorful light and fell back into Qin Shi's hand. A golden flower suddenly appeared in the empty flower basket. The flower had 9 petals and each petal was different in shape. There were sabers, swords, daggers, and so on. They looked like various weapons. There were golden lightning flashing on it. It was then retracted and disappeared in an instant, refining the heavenly thunderbolt into a magical flower. Could this be the Qiqiao basket of the heavenly fairy of 100 flowers in ancient times? Perfected Lord Ku Rong was very knowledgeable. He saw that the flower basket could actually refine the heavenly thunderbolt into a magical flower. Although the magical flower looked very beautiful, it was formed by a heavenly thunderbolt of heptagold. It contained all the power of the heavenly thunderbolt. It was no exaggeration to say that if this flower was thrown out, it would be like throwing out a heavenly thunderbolt of heptagold. It could be called the heptagold thunderbolt flower. However, you're not the heavenly fairy of 100 flowers after all. If this junior wants to pass the tribulation smoothly, he'll have to ask for my permission first. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's expression turned cold and his body exuded a deathly aura. The heavenly thunderbolt that was bombarding him had long been neutralized by him. Now, he was looking at Di Shirtian and Qin Shi and sneered. I'll leave this place to you. I'm going to pass the tribulation. Di Shirtian had already seen the situation in front of him clearly. He would not be able to resist perfected Lord Ku Rong no matter what. The gap between them was too big. It would not be of much use if he stayed where he was. Moreover, there were tribulation clouds above his head. To him, passing the tribulation was the most important thing. He spat out these words and stomped his right foot on the ground. His entire body shot out like a cannonball and ferociously charged into the tribulation clouds in the sky. Junior, you want to pass the tribulation? It's not that easy in this world. Perfected Lord Ku Rong was really fierce. He moved his feet and his body was wrapped in a ball of green light. Almost instantly, he appeared beside Di Shirtian. He pointed the wilting staff in his hand. The color of the staff had turned completely gray. The gray color represented the withering of the wilting staff, which was also the power of death. Once hit, not only would it pierce a big hole in the body, the withering power in the staff would also enter the body instantly, causing the vitality in the body to disappear quickly. This attack seemed like an old man in his 70s or 80s waving a walking stick. However, it was as fast as lightning. In almost the blink of an eye, it was behind D. Shirtion. It could pierce through his back with just a poke. "How dare you?" Qin Shi's face showed a kind of majesty. He moved his hand from the heptagold thunderbolt flower in the heptagold basket and gently plucked a petal. The petal was shaped like a golden saber. He pinched the flower and threw it. It seemed to be able to travel through time and space. It arrived first and appeared in front of the wilting staff. Bang! Countless golden thunderbolts burst out, and the vast power blocked the wooden staff. It could not advance any further. With this momentary block, D. Shirtian's entire body soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, he rushed into the tribulation clouds. The tribulation clouds rolled violently. When they opened their eyes, they could no longer see D. Shirtian's figure. He had completely entered the tribulation clouds. As soon as he entered, the vast pressure of the tribulation clouds was immediately reduced by half. The surrounding frozen air also suddenly relaxed. The shape-shifting demon tribulation targeted the tribulation taker. Now that D. Shirtion had entered, the power of the heavenly tribulation also began to target him. It was all condensed inside the tribulation clouds. For a moment, countless golden electric arcs could be seen flashing in the pitch-black tribulation clouds. The surrounding sky was reflected in a golden light, which was abnormally terrifying. "Today, none of you can escape." When True Lord Ku Rong saw that Sakura had actually entered the tribulation cloud, he merely smiled coldly. The power of the tribulation cloud had already far exceeded that of an ordinary demonic tribulation of the transformation stage. Even the 19 demonic tribulations could not compare to it. With such power, entering the tribulation cloud would not end well. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 254. The lightning in the tribulation cloud was the gung metal divine lightning with the sharpest and most terrifying attack power in the world. The lightning contained an incomparably terrifying gung metal chi. The gung metal chi was the killing power. When it struck down, it could easily turn into countless sharp and terrifying sword. It also contained the terrifying power of lightning. Thinking about it, it was already extremely difficult to withstand the lightning tribulation under the tribulation cloud. Even True Lord Ku Rong himself had his clothes turned into dust when he was careless. The demonic tribulation in front of him was no ordinary demonic tribulation. The power of the demonic tribulation was far from what an ordinary demonic beast could withstand. If it were Chihua, by you and the rest who rushed into the tribulation cloud at this time, they would be bombarded by the lightning tribulation in just a few breaths' time. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was terrifying. Even if they had embarked on the path of ancient demonic cultivation, how could their demonic beast bodies withstand such ferocious lightning? Therefore, when True Lord Ku Rong saw that he was unable to deal a heavy blow to Di Shirtian, he felt that he had not taken revenge personally. He only sneered in his heart. Chen Shi believes that Shirtian will definitely not be defeated by this demonic tribulation. As for you, it's time for us to settle the score between us. Chen Shi glanced at the tribulation cloud and coldly glanced at True Lord Ku Rong. His face was full of frost. He reached out his hand and plucked a sword-shaped petal from the gung metal divine lightning flower in the flower basket and pinched it between his fingers. Flower pinching smile. A cold smile. Flower pinching finger. Chen Shi flicked the golden flower in his hand gracefully. Immediately, the golden flower burst forth with golden light. In the light, the golden flower split into two, two into three, three into 10,000. In the blink of an eye, it was overwhelming. There were countless sword-shaped golden flowers in front of him. Each petal was incomparably sharp and fluttered in the sky. The golden light connected into one in the sky. Flower-pinching smile meant vitality. Those with vitality were endless. Therefore, the number of golden flowers was almost endless. It was truly a terrifying battle technique. In fact, there was only one original body of these thousands of golden flowers. These countless golden flowers were continuously divided from the original sword-shaped golden flower. They were the strongest part of the original sword-shaped golden flower, but they also had flaws. As long as the original golden flower was destroyed, it would be equivalent to destroying the flower-pinching finger. Why would I be afraid of a little girl like you? When true Lord Ku Rong saw the golden flowers that filled the sky, his expression changed. How could he not know how dangerous it was? However, as a true lord, how could he show weakness at this time? A light flashed in his eyes, and he shouted coldly. He raised his withered glory staff and shook it violently, causing it to turn into countless branches. It completely wrapped his body in it. Then, it pointed at the countless golden flowers at lightning speed. With this movement, there was a continuous state of mind within his staff. As long as one's heart did not give up, the staff in his hand would never stop. On the spot, a series of intense rumbling sounds continuously rang out. Now that more than half of the pressure in the tribulation clouds had been withdrawn, none of them left the valley. They fought under the tribulation clouds. Chun Shi had passed the 19 demonic tribulations, and the inner core in his body had entered the first transformation realm. Obviously, he could compete with a nascent soul realm cultivator and could be called a demon king among the demon clan. No one knew how much true Lord Ku Rong's current strength had dropped. Although he was only at the late stage of the core formation realm, his combat power was definitely not below that of a Yuan Ing realm cultivator. Moreover, he was even more terrifying. Coupled with his various secret skills, no matter how strong a cultivator was, they could not underestimate him at all. Otherwise, they might be killed at any time. When the battle started, it immediately became unusually fierce. Compared to the battle in the valley, the battle outside the valley could be said to be tragic. Among the 9 cultivators, the Black Ape King showed its power and crushed a female cultivator to death. There were still 8 other cultivators who were core formation realm cultivators and used Dharma treasures. When the battle started, it was extremely tragic. Wounds appeared on the bodies of all the demonic beast kings. However, in terms of ferocity, no one could compare to the demon kings. They had the upper hand. At this time, Wang Fenger was brought up by Medusa, and the battle was also very dangerous. However, Di Shirtian, who was in the tribulation clouds at this time, was even more uncomfortable. Ah! He fiercely rushed into the tribulation clouds and felt the scene in front of him suddenly change. He suddenly appeared in the middle of countless thunderbolts. Golden thunderclouds were constantly shuttling back and forth, and an incomparably sharp aura burst out from them. As soon as he, an outsider, entered, the countless thunderbolts immediately seemed to have found their target. Crack! With a sound, countless thunderbolts crazily bombarded Di Shirtian as if they wanted to blow him into countless pieces on the spot and completely turn him into powder. It was really terrifying. It would be strange if an ordinary person saw it and did not faint on the spot. As expected, the black robe on Di Shirtian's body was immediately turned into powder by the thunderbolts and bombarded his body. There was no way to suppress a shrill scream as it roared out from his mouth. Shirtian, the form transformation demon tribulation is not to be experienced outside. You have to rush into the tribulation clouds and use your demon body to resist the divine thunder. The longer you resist, the better. Once you can't resist, the thunderbolts inside will devour your demon body. During this process, don't resist. Let your physical body disperse and divide into flesh and blood. Then use your consciousness to control the flesh and blood to devour the tribulation lightning outside your body. The more you devour, the better it will be for you in the future. Finally, use your willpower to gather the flesh and blood and reform your physical body. In an instant, the words that she said before appeared in his mind. You can't rely on external objects to resist. You have to rely on your own physical body. Use the thunderbolts to temper your body. Shirtian's eyes burst with incomparable determination. If he wanted to be a demon, he had to suffer the most hardships. He understood this principle and gritted his teeth to endure the terrible pain on his body. In the thunderbolts, although his demon body was strong, there were still countless small wounds on his body. All the muscles on his body were wriggling crazily, and the hair on his head was standing on end. He had really turned into the appearance of a broom. Ah! Good, today I will borrow the thunderbolts of the heavens to temper my demon body. Roar! With a thought, Shirtian's body swayed, and instantly, he returned to his original form. Suddenly, a huge black tiger could be seen standing in the midst of countless thunderbolts. There was a purple king mark on his forehead. This king mark was beating crazily, and his entire body was expanding rapidly. In the blink of an eye, Shirtian's body had expanded to a size of 20 feet. Rumble! As his body grew bigger, the tribulation clouds also grew bigger, and wrapped him tightly in the tribulation clouds. Bolts of thunderbolts fiercely bombarded him. These bolts of lightning, as soon as they fell on his body, they immediately turned into countless sharp golden blades, constantly slashing his body. It could be said that these blades formed by lightning were abnormally sharp. Even with Shirtian's demon body, under these blades, there were densely packed wounds. Blood flowed out from the wounds, and the hair all over his body was standing on end due to the stimulation of the thunderbolts. He was like a large hedgehog. Ah! Every time a wound appeared, there would be thunderbolts rushing into his body through the wound, wreaking havoc in his body. Endless pain constantly surged into his heart. This was not a tribulation, but an unimaginable torture. This was because Shirtian remembered Shi's words. He wanted to use his demon body to endure this tribulation for a while longer. The demon body itself contained a strong vitality. Shirtian did not hold back and frantically poured the demon essence in his body into every inch of his body, stimulating the enormous strength of his physical body. As soon as a wound was opened on his body by the Gungjin lightning, the demon essence in his body began to continuously stimulate the surrounding flesh, causing the wound to heal quickly. As soon as this wound healed, it was immediately cut open again. This kind of terrifying pain almost continuously swept over him, as if it wanted to completely bury his entire consciousness in this endless pain. Pain, it was really too painful. This was constantly cutting flesh from his body. It was almost no different from being dismembered, but even more terrifying. Not only was it on the outside, but there were also countless thunderbolts madly destroying his body. Ah! I won't fall like this. I will definitely be able to hold on. Ah! Although he was letting out mournful screams, his eyes revealed an incomparably resolute gaze. He kept his consciousness in an incomparably sober state. It was because he was sober that he felt such pain. However, he knew that if he let his consciousness get lost in this endless pain at this time, what awaited him would definitely be a terrible state of eternal damnation. The heavenly tribulation would not have any thoughts of showing mercy. At this time, it was a battle of willpower. It was a test of one's willpower. There was no unwavering belief. What did one have to climb to the peak and ascend to a higher realm? Willpower, only unyielding and unwavering belief, never bowing to any strong enemy, never yielding in any adversity. Willpower was the foundation of everything. If one gave in to the heavenly tribulation, how could one achieve anything in the future? Even if one did, how could one climb to the peak? The heart in his body was beating wildly, each beat like thunder. It was unknown how many times it beat per second. If it was an ordinary heart, it would probably be shattered into countless pieces on the spot. However, De Chertien's heart was incomparably strong and contained endless vitality. This was because there was an unparalleled heaven-tier demon residence in his heart. In the demon residence, the demon refining cauldron was madly spinning, bursting forth with endless devouring power, continuously spreading in all directions. Kacha! Kacha! Countless thunderbolts were violently pulsing. Outside, the gung metal lightning was constantly shuttling back and forth. It was originally meant to bombard De Chertien, but now it felt the powerful devouring power from the demon refining cauldron. Immediately, as if it had taken a stimulant or had been injected with an adrenaline shot, it erupted with even more powerful lightning and charged ferociously towards him. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidien.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 255. It was as if he was in a sea of thunder and lightning. Any foreign object that entered this sea would be greatly repelled and attacked fiercely. At this moment, Indra was an outsider, a foreign object in the thunder and lightning. Naturally, the thunder and lightning in the surroundings wanted to completely bombard him into fine powder all the time, blasting him into countless dregs. Originally, it was already a torture similar to being cut into pieces. Now, with the movement of the demon refining cauldron in his body, the lightning became even more violent. Its power suddenly increased by an unknown amount. Countless golden lightning turned into golden spiritual snakes, covering the sky and covering the earth as they ferociously pounced towards Indra. Ah! Come on! The purple king mark on his forehead flickered and pulsed, and an unyielding will spewed out from it, causing his will to become even more resolute. He gritted his teeth, causing them to creak. The wine god's gourd appeared in front of him, and a stream of golden, amber-like wine poured into his mouth and into his body. It turned into a huge amount of essence chi that filled his entire body. At this moment, there was nothing for him to be stingy about. Only by overcoming the demon tribulation would there be a future. The spiritual wine was precious, but compared to his life, it was not worth mentioning. Under the nourishment of the pure and abundant essence chi, the countless wounds caused by the thunder and lightning began to heal at an astonishing speed. He could understand the meaning of Chun Shi's words. Every time the thunder and lightning cut countless wounds on his body, after they healed, he could clearly feel that the wounds were tougher and stronger than before. His physical body was becoming stronger bit by bit. In this thunder and lightning, it was extremely painful to be constantly eroded by the thunder and lightning. The feeling was indescribable. However, it was also the best time to cultivate his body, especially for someone like him who had embarked on the path of ancient demon cultivation. The stronger his demon body was, the stronger his combat power and the stronger the power in his body. It had immeasurable benefits for cultivating battle skills. Therefore, how could he not know what Chun Shi meant when he said that the longer he could endure in the thunder and lightning, the better? Crack, crack! Countless electric snakes rushed over. In just a moment, the violent thunder and lightning completely covered Sakra, and the power of Gung Jin divine thunder completely broke out. Strands of black tiger fur were turned into fine powder by the lightning. The lightning was like a knife, cutting thousands of wounds of various sizes on his body. The wounds were densely packed and covered his entire body. Countless streaks of electricity flowed through the pores of his body and surged into his body. Once the lightning entered his body, the endless pain could no longer be concealed as it surged into every inch of his flesh. Hum! His heart pounded violently, beating hundreds of times every second. A powerful devouring force was continuously emitted from his heart, attracting the lightning and guiding it rapidly into his heart. It was as if thousands of rivers were flowing into the sea, continuously rushing into his heart. The heart was the demon residence. Once the lightning entered his heart, the domineering thunder and lightning also entered the demon residence ferociously. In an instant, the entire demon residence was filled with countless bolts of lightning, roaring as they began to wreak havoc in the demon residence. However, the demon refining cauldron in the center of the demon residence emitted a massive amount of devouring force and began to spin continuously. It was so fast that one could not even see its shape clearly. One could only see a ball of bright jade light spinning so quickly that it created a huge vortex around the jade cauldron. The devouring force was emitted from this vortex. Under the guidance of this devouring force, the lightning did not wait for the destruction to begin and quickly rushed into the demon refining cauldron. The demon refining cauldron was slowly filled with a cauldron of demon liquid. This demon liquid was demon essence, and the form of the demon liquid was already in a semi-solid state. It was transforming into a solid state. Once it solidified, it would become the demon clan's inner core. Under such circumstances, no matter how much one cultivated, the demon essence in one's body would not be able to continue increasing, and one's cultivation would come to a complete halt. This was a tribulation that every demon clan member had to go through, the demon tribulation. This was because the lightning of the transformation demon tribulation was different from the ninefold demon tribulation after the inner core had been formed. In this demon tribulation, although the lightning contained a powerful destructive force, it also contained a mysterious power of creation. In order to form the inner core, one had to devour the lightning of this demon tribulation. One had to refine the power of creation contained in the lightning and fuse it with one's own demon essence. Using the power of creation as a catalyst, the half-solid state would be reversed, and the inner core would finally be formed. Ah! Even with Sakra's willpower, he was still letting out shrill cries of agony. If this was a normal demonic tribulation, such a scene would definitely not occur. With his current strength, he would have a 90% chance of withstanding it. But this demonic tribulation right now was King abnormal. Its might was no less than 2 times stronger than before. Naturally, the pain he suffered would increase exponentially. However, the screams were just to vent the uncontrollable pain in his body. His gaze was unusually clear, and he maintained a calm state. However, there was a hint of madness in his gaze. He gritted his teeth and persevered. Being in this sea of lightning, countless bolts of lightning constantly surged into his body. A portion of these bolts of lightning entered the demon refining cauldron and fused with the demon essence in the cauldron bit by bit. At this moment, the demon essence was being continuously compressed under the stimulation of the power of creation in the lightning, and the liquid became more and more solid. "Reconstruct the demon meridian," Shirtian roared. With unparalleled willpower, he immersed his mind in his body and began to prepare to construct the 3rd demon meridian. He had already thought about this demon meridian long ago. It was the joy demon meridian. Coincidentally, the sorrow demon meridian in his body could guide the terrifying desire demon meridian from this demon meridian. It was also the easiest demon meridian to construct and control. All along, he had been preparing to form the inner core. At this moment, Shirtian followed his original plan and began to construct the demon meridian in the thunderclouds with unparalleled willpower. The thunderclouds were not a fun place. It was as if he was enduring thousands of bolts of lightning to do these things. He had to pay attention to the refinement of the demon essence in the demon mansion and construct the demon meridian at the same time. Simultaneously doing several incomparably crucial things, one could well imagine how much perseverance and tenacious willpower one would need to do so. This was a hurdle that only ancient demon cultivators had to go through. For others who only needed to construct all the meridians in their Tao bodies, they did not need to go through this step. Once they took form, they would naturally evolve. Junior brothers and sisters, don't get entangled with these demons. Gather immediately and surround the reversing the universe demon binding net. Everyone, stand in a position and set up the inescapable net formation. Trap all these demons in the demon binding net and then use your methods to deal with them. Wang Fenger swept a glance at the battle situation around her. She realized that although the cultivation of her fellow disciples were high, they were all at a disadvantage. Their ferocity in the battle could not be compared to the demon kings like the Black Ape King. After all, every demon king had walked out of the law of natural selection. Which one of them had not gone through countless battles to achieve their current achievements? In the forest, there was no way to avoid bloodshed and fighting. How could a group of small cultivators from the Thousand Beasts sect compare to them in terms of experience in fighting? Therefore, although their cultivation was a level lower, if they really fought with their lives on the line, they would firmly suppress this group of cultivators. Alright, capture this group of demons and avenge Junior Sister. When the remaining 7 cultivators heard this, they immediately unleashed their most powerful attacks without any hesitation, blasting their opponents away. Then, they immediately flew into the air and converged towards the terrifying inverse the universe demon binding net. Demons, I'll let you see the power of my Dharma treasure today. Wang Fenger stretched out her hand and pointed. The crimson vermilion bird that evolved from the fiery red pearl immediately burst forth with bright flames. It let out a loud cry and flapped its wings. Thousands of fiery feathers burst forth with the vermilion bird's fire immediately swept towards Medusa and enveloped her under the attack. There was no space for her to dodge. On the other hand, she seized this opportunity to immediately charge into midair and appeared before the large net in one go. Shockingly, the Nether Crow King was waiting coldly within the net with the flock of crows, and they didn't charge at the large net in a flurry. Because they'd already tested it earlier, and the toughness of the net had really attained an immeasurable state. It was really difficult to destroy. Although the underworld Raven King was in the net, he did not panic. He was the king of the demon beast. Once he gathered all the underworld ravens, he would activate his innate ability, Death's Gaze. He was confident that no cultivator in front of him could survive under that ability. Since he could not break through, he did not want to waste his effort. Everyone, get ready to set up the inescapable net, Wang Fenger shouted. 8 people surrounded the entire net in the middle. Each of them pulled a corner of the net and immediately poured the vital essence in their body into the net at the same time. Whoosh! As soon as the net received the vital essence, it immediately burst forth with a layer of dense white light. In the light, the demon-binding net immediately began to rapidly expand. The 8 people pulled the net in 8 directions at the same time. In an instant, the entire large net covered more than half of the sky, completely enveloping the ground below in one fell swoop. All the demon beasts were bound under the strange net without any exception. It was strange to say that under the cover of this strange net, no living creature could walk out of the range of the net. It was as if the area under the net had completely become a cage. The battle in the valley was also incomparably fierce. One had obtained the inheritance of the ancient fairy of 100 flowers. It could be said that she was blessed by the heavens and had a supreme foundation. The other was an old monster who had lived for who knows how many years since ancient times. When they fought, it was even more dangerous. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 256. Di Shirtian felt as if thousands of years had passed while he was in the thundercloud. However, it was only a blink of an eye outside. True Lord Ku Rong waved the wooden staff in his hand wildly, shattering the countless sword-shaped petals one by one. However, the more petals he destroyed, the more petals appeared in front of him. It was so overwhelming that it looked like a storm was raging. Humph! True Lord Ku Rong was very experienced. How could he not see that there was definitely a flaw in the flower-pinching finger? However, the petals in front of him were all identical. It would be extremely difficult to find the real one among the countless petals. Moreover, the split petals also had extremely sharp offensive power. Nonetheless, the older one was, the more cunning he became. He had countless tricks up his sleeves, so he immediately came up with a solution. He snorted coldly. "You have the flower-pinching finger that can split countless petals, but I, true Lord Ku Rong, have been unhindered for countless years. How can this little trick stump me? Watch my 10,000 vines dance." He waved the withering staff in front of him gently. The originally gray wooden staff turned white in the blink of an eye. Endless vitality burst out of the staff in an instant, and white light sprinkled on the ground like rain. Whoosh! Countless vines immediately broke out of the ground and grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, thousands of ancient vines completely covered an area of dozens of meters around true Lord Ku Rong. Moreover, they were like extremely agile long whips that swept toward the petals that filled the sky. Instantly, large patches of petals were completely annihilated by the ancient vines' attack. However, a large number of ancient vines were also cut into thousands of pieces by the petals. However, they grew back immediately. The petals and ancient vines collided wantonly in the valley. He wanted to use the ancient vines to find the real one of the petals. Rumble! In the sky above, there were continuous thunderous sounds coming from the huge tribulation cloud. The surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth was rapidly being absorbed into the tribulation cloud to increase its power. Suddenly, waves of black chi in the sky surged into the tribulation clouds. Just by sensing this black chi, one would feel an incomparably dangerous omen. It was as if it contained an incomparably evil power. These wisps of black chi had appeared out of thin air. As soon as it appeared, it charged straight into the tribulation clouds. The scene was extremely strange. This black aura seems to be the power of desire condensed from the heavens and earth. Perfected Lord Ku Rong initially wanted to continue fighting Chen Shi as he was determined to capture the young fellow. Nevertheless, this change piqued his curiosity, so he asked in confusion, "This is strange. I've lived in this world for tens of thousands of years, but I've never heard that the heavenly disaster can absorb the power of desire. This has never happened before. Hey, this isn't right. Could it be?" An unusually shocked expression appeared on his face. Vaguely, there was a look of disbelief on his face as he opened his mouth wide. Could it be that this junior is actually following the path of ancient demon cultivation? He even has the guts to create the demonic meridian of desire? As soon as this thought appeared, there was a feeling of desolation in his mind. The power of desire was not only discovered by Sakra Tiankai. In ancient times, there were many outstanding peerless geniuses. Naturally, there was no lack of people who were interested in this power and wanted to take it for their own use. But in the end, they were all extremely miserable, and almost none of them succeeded. Their endings were extremely frightening, and those who came after them were all timid. Therefore, there had always been a saying that the power of desire could not be used by anyone. This was almost a common sense, and no one had ever broken it for countless years. Perfected Lord Ku Rong knew this part of history, so how could he not be surprised? I don't know if this junior is too ignorant or too bold to create such a demonic meridian of desire. However, junior, this perfected lord is a little interested. How can this little bit of power of desire be enough? Let me lend you a hand. Kid, take your time to enjoy it. TSK. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's eyes moved quickly, and a cold sneer appeared in his eyes. Suddenly, an extremely black pearl the size of a longan appeared in his hand. Without any hesitation, he threw the pearl into the tribulation cloud. Instantly, it fell into the tribulation cloud like a bolt of lightning. Crack! Lightning shot out and bombarded the strange black pearl. An extremely strange thing happened. The pearl did not resist at all and was directly blasted apart by the lightning. Countless cracks appeared on the pearl, and as soon as the cracks appeared, countless streams of black gas spewed out like a tide. A huge amount of black gas completely enveloped the entire sky in almost an instant, and madly surged into the tribulation cloud like tired birds returning to their nest. There seemed to be a bottomless hole in the tribulation cloud that swallowed as much black gas as there was. Hee Junior, enjoy it well. Don't waste this perfected Lord's good intentions. Perfected Lord Ku Rong laughed strangely. What did you do to Di Shirtian? Seeing the previous scene, Chen Shi's expression suddenly changed and became unusually ugly. Although she did not recognize what the pearl was, she knew that it was definitely not something good. It was definitely an extremely sinister thing. Her delicate hand reached into the flower basket again and plucked another petal from the 7th metal thunder flower. She shouted with a cold face. What did I do? It's just that this junior seems to be creating the demonic meridian of desire, and this perfected lord found it rare. So I threw 100 desires demonic pearl inside to lend him a hand. This perfected lord had good intentions. What? That was the 100 desires demonic pearl just now. Chen Shi's expression changed greatly, and her gaze towards perfected Lord Ku Rong became cold. What a vicious mind. You clearly know that to cultivate the demonic meridian of desire, one must have extremely strong control over the power of desire, and cannot absorb too much power of desire each time, but you still threw 100 desires demonic pearl inside. If anything happens to Di Shirtian because of this king will definitely not let you off even if I have to exhaust all of my resources. As she shouted coldly, she secretly prayed in her heart. Di Shirtian, oh Di Shirtian, you must hold on. Otherwise, Chen Shi will definitely avenge you. She did not recognize the pearl at first, but after hearing its name, the information from the inheritance immediately appeared in her mind. She could not help but frown about the origin of this demonic pearl. According to what she knew in her mind, there was a mysterious place on the purple gold mainland called the Limitless Desire Realm. This limitless desire realm was continuously emitted by countless living beings in the world over thousands of years. The endless desires accumulated and gathered together, and finally, it mutated and formed a mysterious place called the Limitless Desire Realm. In the Limitless Desire Realm, the endless desires of all living beings in the world were condensed. Once one entered it, they would be placed in the countless limitless desire realm. It was extremely terrifying. The power of desire in the limitless desire realm was so dense that it could not be estimated. After so many years, no one knew how strong the power of desire was. Anyway, it could be said that it was endless. Even the most powerful experts did not dare to enter that place easily. In fact, many people went in, and there were many peerless experts with earth-shattering divine powers. However, very few came out. However, there were 2 items that were related to the limitless desire realm. One was the demonic pearl of 100 desires. This demonic pearl was born in the limitless desire realm. The power of desire in it was so dense that it would gather together to form the demonic pearl of 100 desires. The power of desire in this demonic pearl of 100 desires was enormous. In ancient times, an evil cultivator once did an experiment. He threw a demonic pearl of 100 desires into an ancient city with millions of people. The demonic pearl of 100 desires exploded on the spot, and a huge amount of power of desire immediately covered the entire ancient city. In just a short day, all the living beings in the ancient city were buried in the endless desire. Moreover, the ancient city was no longer suitable for people to live in. It turned into a dead area. It could be seen that the power of desire in the demonic pearl of 100 desires was enormous. As for the second item, it was even more famous. It was said that after countless years of evolution, the endless power of desire in the limitless desire realm gave birth to a treasure called the virtual illusory realm. This treasure was actually a painting. When it was rolled up, it would become a painting scroll. However, this painting was the virtual illusory realm. The power of this treasure was not simple. It targeted the desires of all living beings in the world. As long as there was still desire in one's heart, there was no way to escape. As the saying went, everyone has desires. However, due to everyone's environment, responsibilities, principles, and so on, there are many reasons that are intricate and entangled together. They are suppressed in the body and restrict one's desires. Almost everyone has moments of hesitation and regret when they choose to give up their desires. There was an incomparably huge mystery contained within. As long as there was desire, there was no way to escape the power of the virtual illusory realm. After all, there were countless regrets in life, and they could be made up for in the virtual illusory realm. Think about it. If the past gave you a chance to choose again, would you be willing to give it up? As the saying went, once you entered the illusory realm, you could not control yourself. This treasure, the virtual illusory realm, had a great reputation in ancient times. It was an incomparably precious treasure. There were all kinds of miraculous uses in it. Speaking of which, Tion, who was in the tribulation cloud now, could absorb the power of desire in the world by himself. It was something that could be controlled by himself. He could absorb as much as he needed. Logically speaking, what he created was the demon meridian of joy, so there was almost no danger. However, with true Lord Ku Rong's interference, there was a sudden storm. Chapter 257. Even though Tion had created the desire meridian, which was the most difficult to create in the world, it did not mean that he had mastered these powers. He had only temporarily restrained them in his body and constructed a channel to connect to the power of desire in the outside world, which was a bridge for him to absorb the power of desire. Even his mind was only temporarily adapted to the sorrow meridian to a certain extent. He could restrain the sorrow in the sorrow meridian so that he would not be affected by it and fall into the same situation as when he was in the zither realm. However, he did not really master this power of desire. The power of desire that he absorbed and stored in his body was only an accumulation and did not bring any power to him. The creation of the demon meridian now was just to prepare for the future. It could be said that he was also laying his foundation. Originally, Tion was going to start preparing for the creation of the third demon meridian this time. He was going to spend some time in seclusion and try to create a cultivation method that belonged to him. However, there were some good words to say that plans could never keep up with changes. Take the current situation as an example. Originally, he did not intend to start the demonic tribulation at this time, but because he had to stop true Lord Ku Rong for a few breaths, he had to trigger the demonic tribulation and use the pressure of the demonic tribulation to temporarily stop him. As for himself, he had to start the demonic tribulation without any preparation. If the power of the demonic tribulation was several times stronger, then so be it. With his tenacious willpower, he was confident that he could withstand it. That boundless pain was something he could endure. He could grit his teeth and endure it. Anyway, although it was painful, it could temper his body. It was a blessing and a curse. He did not suffer in vain. When creating the demon meridian, the power of desire could not be too much. If it was too much, something bad would happen. If it all rushed into the body, the consequences would be frightening. The act of creating the demon meridian would definitely go out of control. It might cause all the hidden desires in the demon meridian in the body to erupt in an instant and rush to the mind. At that time, no matter how strong one's will was, they would sink in an instant. No, how can this be? Why is there suddenly so much power of desire rushing into my body? I didn't attract so much power. Even if I did, it should only be the desire of joy. It's impossible to have all the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Di-Shir-Tian, who was in the thundercloud, was wholeheartedly creating the 3rd demon meridian. However, as soon as he began to sculpt, he immediately realized that the surroundings seemed to be showing signs of difficulty in grasping the situation around him. He felt as if he was suddenly in a place full of desire. There was an endless power of desire all around him that was desperately trying to drill into his body. But he did not know that true Lord Ku Rong Di-Shir-Tian, which contained endless power of desire, into the tribulation cloud. The power of desire, that power of desire was emitted from the demonic tribulation and intertwined with the countless thunderbolts in the tribulation cloud. The power of desire, the demonic tribulation, which interred with the countless thunderbolts in fact. Moreover, Di-Shir-Tian was currently creating the demon meridian, which was the time to continuously absorb the power of desire. Following this pulling force, the power of desire naturally surged into his body like a lost lamb that had found its home. This kind of influx was simply unstoppable. In just an instant, Di-Shir-Tian could clearly feel the massive power of desire. It could definitely drown him in an instant. 7 sins demonic zither, devour this power of desire. Without any hesitation, the 7 sins demonic zither, which was floating in the demon residence, immediately emitted a layer of demonic jade light. Within this jade light, a tyrannical devouring power burst forth without any warning. It appeared in his entire body and quickly devoured the huge power of desire into the zither. The 7 sins demonic zither itself relied on devouring the power of desire to advance and evolve. It was the best target to use to devour the power of desire. Not only could it absorb the power of desire from the body, but it could also help the zither accumulate the power needed to advance to a magic weapon. I have to shape the demon meridian as soon as possible. Such a huge power of desire suddenly appeared. Could it be that something happened outside? I have to quickly pass the demon tribulation, condense the Niden, and go out to kill the female cultivator who kidnapped my mother. This time, I must not let the enemy leave unscathed. Di-Shir-Tian took a deep breath and focused all his attention on shaping the demon meridian. With the help of the 7 sins demonic zither to absorb the power of desire that was constantly pouring into his body, it finally reached a balance in the power of desire in his body. Without hesitation, he quickly extracted the power of joy from the power of desire. It began to fuse with the demon meridian. Shaping the demon meridian was actually not difficult. He had already experienced it twice before, so shaping it again was a walk in the park. He continued to refine the power of joy together with the meridian, quickly fusing them together. Last time, the 2nd demon meridian shaped a front claw. This time, it was the demon meridian in the 2nd front claw. He skillfully shaped the 3rd demon meridian and replaced it on the left tiger claw, connecting it with the other 2 demon meridian. Almost as soon as the demon meridian was shaped in his body, there was a sudden surge of endless joy in his body and quickly swept into his mind. He couldn't help but have a feeling of wanting to laugh wildly. This was an involuntary action. He didn't have this kind of joy, but he just wanted to open his mouth and laugh in that inexplicable powerful joy. That kind of strange feeling was absolutely difficult to describe. However, the good thing was that just as the happiness demonic vein was about to erupt, the sadness in the sorrow demonic vein that was originally created was also released by Sakra at the same time. The sadness immediately intertwined with the happiness demonic vein, conflicting with each other, and forcibly maintained a strange balance in his body, causing his mind to temporarily not be affected by it. This could be said to be unusually easy compared to before. However, Di-Shir-Tian didn't have the slightest joy in his heart. His heart suddenly thumped, and an indescribable bitterness suddenly emerged. Ding dong! In the demon mansion, the 9 strings of the 7 sins demonic zither vibrated at the same time, and the whole jade zither quickly appeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. These black lines densely covered the entire body of the zither in an instant, and in one fell swoop, the originally white jade zither was instantly dyed black. At this moment, even ordinary people could feel an incomparably powerful demonic aura in the zither, which seemed abnormally evil and strange. And at the moment when the zither's body completely turned black, the strings on the zither vibrated, and there was no longer a trace of the power of desire rushing into the zither. It seemed that the zither could no longer contain any more power of desire. The 7 sins demonic zither has been filled with the power of desire. He smiled bitterly in his heart. The fact that the jade zither had completely turned black meant that the ancient zither was about to begin its transformation and evolution, and could no longer contain any more power of desire. It had to wait for the ancient zither to transform from a supreme grade instrument to a lower grade instrument in one fell swoop before the jade zither could continue to absorb the power of desire. At that time, the amount of power of desire that the ancient zither could absorb would be even greater, increasing exponentially. Thinking about it, it had been almost 2 years since the 7 sins demonic zither was refined. In this period of time, it had been absorbing the power of desire between the heavens and the earth at all times. Day after day, year after year, the amount of power of desire accumulated in the zither had reached an unimaginable level. And now, the 100 Desires demonic orb was surging with the purest power of desire between the heavens and the earth, endlessly flowing into the ancient zither. The amount was so great that even the ancient zither could not completely contain it. For example, if the 7 sins demonic zither had 100 Desires demonic orb beside it when it was first refined, and all the power of desire from the demonic orb was poured into the ancient zither, then the ancient zither would become pitch black. But now, the ancient zither had absorbed the power of desire on its own for 2 years, and then began to absorb the power of desire from the 100 Desires demonic orb. Naturally, it could not completely devour the power of desire from the demonic orb. It had only devoured about 2/3 of it. There was still a third that had not been absorbed. Although it was only a third, the amount of power of desire it contained was unimaginable. Rumble! Countless bolts of lightning wildly rampaged outside of his body, continuously surging into D. Shirtyen's body, accompanied by endless power of desire. In the blink of an eye, the demonic veins in his body were filled with power of desire. The power of desire was not absorbed by the 7 sins demonic zither, and immediately surged into the demonic abode. It quickly entered the black cloud of desire, which grew bigger and bigger, rapidly expanding. In a short moment, it had filled more than half of the demonic abode. If this continued, it would not be long before the entire demonic abode was destroyed by the power of desire. Once the demonic abode collapsed, it would be equivalent to completely destroying one's own foundation. Even the demonic body would explode and turn into dust. Who is trying to harm me? How could they get such a huge amount of power of desire? What should I do now? What should I do to resolve this crisis? In this desperate moment, D. Shirtyen's mind was working at an unprecedented speed. Countless ideas flashed through his mind, and various feasible methods emerged. However, they were all rejected in an instant. The more dangerous the situation was, the calmer his mind became. He was in an inconceivable situation. Quick, quick, quick! He crazily screamed in his heart as he quickly thought of a solution. However, the power of desire was the most difficult power to control in the world. He knew that only the 7 sins demonic zither could absorb and contain the power of desire. But now, the 7 sins demonic zither had reached its limit at this critical moment. This almost instantly cut off all his chances of survival. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 258. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? All kinds of ideas kept replaying in his mind, but they were all rejected in an instant. The power of desire crazily surging into his body was practically driving him crazy. Every increase in the power of desire was tantamount to pushing him closer to death. In the blink of an eye, the desire clouds in his body had filled up 2/3 of the space in the demon palace. At this critical juncture, a flash of inspiration quickly flashed through his mind, and he instantly caught hold of this inspiration. Thinking about it in his mind, he was about to give up completely on the spot. However, seeing the power of desire crazily surging into his body, a crazy idea suddenly emerged in his mind. Anyway, I've already come to this point. If I continue, I'll definitely not be able to escape death. Although this method is extremely dangerous, it's still a feasible method. If I die, then so be it. Today, before I die, I'll give it my all. Whether I live or die, it'll all depend on the will of the heavens. His eyes, which had been closed all this while, suddenly opened. In his eyes, one could see a trace of complete madness. He had reached the point of desperation. Whether he advanced or not, he would still die. If he went all out, there might be a chance of survival. At this time, there was no other choice. If I don't go crazy, I won't live. No matter who wants to harm me, as long as I don't die this time, when I get out, I'll definitely settle this score. Let the power of desire come more fiercely. Tian screamed crazily in his heart, and his entire mind instantly entered a state of madness. Madness, at this moment, he couldn't not go crazy even if he wanted to. In the demon palace, the demon refining cauldron was operating crazily. With a single thought, wave after wave of desire energy was crazily poured into the cauldron. At the same time, clumps of blood essence continuously flowed into the demon palace through the demon vein, and quickly entered the cauldron, rushing into the boundless power of desire. It constantly churned inside, and began to be refined. With a cry of pain, 2 meridians were forcefully pulled out of his body and sent into the demon palace, and quickly followed into the demon refining cauldron, fusing with the blood essence and the power of desire. He was going to form a demonic vein. That's right, he was going to form another demonic vein. The one he had just formed was the 3rd one. This time, he was going to form the 4th, 5th, and even the 13th. He had only formed the 3rd demonic vein, but he had already started to form other demonic veins. This idea was crazy and unimaginable. It was absolutely unprecedented since ancient times. Even among the ancient demonic cultivators, there had never been such a crazy move. It had to be known that although all ancient Yao cultivators walked the path of forming Yao veins, they would only begin to form Yao veins every time they broke through. That way, they would be able to grasp the power in their body step by step. An additional Yao vein meant that the power in their body would instantly take a huge step forward. This way, one would have absolute control over one's own power, and one's foundation would be abnormally firm. It would have extraordinary benefits when one reached the peak. If Gao Wuyuan wanted to form other demon veins, regardless of whether he could succeed, even if he did, it might not necessarily be a good thing. Whether he could grasp the heterogeneous power in his body was not necessarily a good thing. An additional demon vein meant that the speed at which one could absorb the power in the world would increase by a level. For example, the demon veins formed in the celestial demon slaying technique were formed from massacre chi. Originally, a realm could form the same number of demon veins as one's realm. If there were more, the speed at which one could absorb massacre chi would indeed increase. However, this increase in speed would result in the absorption of massacre chi exceeding the amount that one could refine. Once one lost control, it would result in incalculable damage to one's body. It was like a child holding a sword that only an adult could wield. The consequences of that were obvious. One would only end up hurting oneself. It was like a newborn baby trying to run before learning how to walk. It would be strange if one did not fall. And the consequences of forming more demon veins were many times more serious than falling down. The final solution that flashed through de Chertien's mind was to continue forming demon veins. Furthermore, it was not just one or two, but a total of 13 demon veins of 7 emotions and 6 desires within his body. At the same time, he would refine the immense power of desire that filled his body into these demon veins, allowing the explosive power of desire within his body to be completely released. It would resolve the urgent situation before him. As for the consequences, de Chertien had long thought about it. The power of desire contained the 7 emotions and 6 desires. There were 13 types of power of desire. If it were to explode, it would definitely cause him to enter the land of eternal damnation, and he would never be able to transcend. The consequences would be unimaginably severe. It would be thousands of times more tragic than death. Perhaps, by doing so, he would be able to push back the time of his death for a period of time. But he would still not be able to escape the fate of death. However, there was still a glimmer of hope. If he did not do so, the power of desire within his body would definitely mercilessly explode his entire demon body into thousands of pieces. In the lightning, he would be reduced to dust. He would have to form all the demon veins at the cultivation level equivalent to condensing the inner core. It had to be said that this was an unprecedented act of madness. But it was the only choice now. Let's go all out? A crazed thought surged in his heart as he clenched his teeth, stubbornly resisting the terrifying pain of countless bolts of lightning gnawing at his body. At the same time, he continuously extracted wave after wave of pure essence blood from his body and sent it into the demon dwelling, for the purpose of forming demon veins. Once this action started, it was indeed effective. The power of desire that filled the demon residence immediately surged into the cauldron in an endless stream, no longer spreading in all directions. For a moment, the crisis of death seemed to have been temporarily alleviated. However, one could imagine that an even greater crisis was brewing. But it was caused by de Chertien himself. The method of forming demon veins. In the cauldron, the power of desire was constantly being compressed into a liquid black liquid. This liquid was not the same. It was not gathered together, but divided into 10 equal portions of liquid. These were the 10 types of power of desire. 3 of them were abandoned outside the cauldron and were not absorbed in. They were the 3 types of power of desire of joy, sorrow, and taste. That was because these 3 types of power had already formed demon veins. There was no use in entering. These 10 liquids merged with the blood essence and were constantly being refined, refining all the impurities. At the same time, there was an endless stream of power of desire pouring in. These 10 liquids were the 10 demon veins that were about to be formed, forming 10 demon veins at once. This action could be said to be something that had never been done since ancient times. Today, I'll go crazy and see if I live or die. If there's no path ahead, I'll personally open a path. De Chertien secretly made up his mind. Although he knew that this was a matter of life and death, he had to go. Once he made the choice, there was no room for regret. In this world, there were all kinds of medicine, but there was no medicine for regret. He was not the kind of person who hesitated. It was fine if he did not make up his mind, but once he made up his mind, he would not think about regret. The only thing he could do was to walk forward unswervingly. If there was no path ahead, he would open a path. In this world, there was always a way out. Within the thunderclouds, the boundless power of desire rushed towards de Chertien. 2/3 of the power in the 100 Desires demonic orb was first absorbed by the 7 Sins demonic zither, and now it was being absorbed by de Chertien. On the spot, The power of desire in the surroundings was decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Crack! Countless cracks appeared on the surface of the 100 Desires Devil Pearl. Then, it quickly shattered and turned into dust by the lightning. Not even a speck of dust could be found. The scene was truly terrifying. The 100 Desires Demon Orb has the power to make millions of people fall into a state of lust. How could it disappear so quickly? Impossible. Even the lightning tribulation wouldn't be able to destroy such a pure power of lust. What's going on? Could it be that Junior? All of this seemed to take a long time to describe, but in fact, only a few breaths had passed. However, the boundless power of desire in the demonic orb had strangely disappeared. Although true Lord Ku Rong originally wanted to use the power of desire to cause Di Shirtian to explode and cause his mind to fall into a boundless sea of desire, he did not expect that the power in the demonic orb would disappear so quickly. This was definitely not normal. Moreover, the tribulation clouds had not disappeared yet. This was Di Shirtian's demon tribulation. If Di Shirtian had really died, the tribulation clouds would naturally disappear as well. It would not be like now, where it was still hanging over the valley. It was really strange. This also meant that Di Shirtian was definitely not dead yet. He was still alive. With so much power of desire, he still could not kill Di Shirtian. This conclusion made true Lord Ku Rong's eyes flash with a strange look. Could it be that this Junior has some treasure that can counter the power of desire? With this thought, a thought took root in his mind. He secretly guessed, that must be it. Otherwise, how could this Junior cultivate the demonic meridian of desire without any accident or losing his mind? There must be something strange about him. Otherwise, he must have some magical treasure. Countless thoughts ran through his mind in an instant. Shirtian, hang in there. You must hang in there. Nothing must happen to you. Chen Shi believes that you won't be defeated so easily given your boldness in composing that killer song. Chen Shi also looked at the tribulation clouds nervously, afraid that they would suddenly disappear. As long as the tribulation clouds did not disappear, there was still hope and a chance of survival. Chapter 259. Bang! An unknown amount of time passed. It could have been an instant, a quarter of an hour, or 10 days or half a month. Suddenly, a terrifying roar erupted from the tribulation cloud. A powerful wave of air rushed through the entire tribulation cloud at an unprecedented speed. The lightning in the tribulation cloud faintly showed signs of going out of control. Bolts of golden lightning frantically shot out from the tribulation cloud in all directions. Rumble! Under the influence of the Qi, bolts of golden heavenly lightning struck down from above Chen Shi and true Lord Ku Rong's heads in a frenzy. As they raged, they covered the entire valley. The thunderbolts were the tribulation thunderbolts that were created by the universe. They were so powerful that ordinary thunderbolts could not compare to them. However, after all, it was not a thunder tribulation that was specially brewed, so it was not necessarily unstoppable. When Chen Shi saw this, a hint of joy flashed in her eyes. She threw the flower basket in her hand above her head. The flower basket spun gently, bursting out a 7-colored divine light, which attracted all the nearby divine thunder into the flower basket. It was just right to refine them into bundles of flowers for her own use. At the same time, she thought to herself, this roar should be the sound of Shirtian breaking up his physical body. It seems that he really isn't affected by the power of desire in the 100 Desires demonic orb. Next, it's up to him to condense his inner core. The most painful and difficult part of the tribulation was to be consumed by lightning. Now that he's made it through and condensed his inner core, there shouldn't be any problems. She was secretly delighted. She had been through this before, and she also had the inheritance of the Fairy of 100 Flowers. This wasn't something that Di Shirtian's bloodline inheritance could compare to. A bloodline inheritance only inherited a portion of the techniques and information bestowed upon the inheritor. Not only was it the basics, but what one truly received wasn't much. However, Chun Shi's inheritance was complete, and he had inherited almost all of the Fairy of Hundred Flowers memories. Naturally, he understood what the Tribulation Cloud's sudden rampage meant. Damned brat, could it be that he really has such luck? A cold glint flashed in true Lord Ku Rong's eyes. He wanted to destroy the Tribulation Cloud, but the Tribulation Cloud was different from other things. With his current strength, he could not do anything to Sakura, who was inside, so he could only watch the change in front of him. Boom, boom, boom! A huge hole seemed to have appeared in the sky. A vortex suddenly appeared in the sky above the Tribulation Cloud. The vortex was black, and in the void that was originally empty, countless strands of black chi strangely appeared. These strands of black chi seemed to contain endless evil as they appeared out of thin air. In an instant they surged in from all directions and rushed into the vortex. This was a vortex of desire. The power of desire gathered in the vortex could be said to be vast amounts, and poured into the Tribulation Clouds. Heaven and earth were like a funnel, and below the funnel was the Tribulation Cloud. Countless tiny pieces of flesh filled every inch of the Tribulation Cloud. These blood essences were constantly devouring the surrounding lightning and the power of creation in the lightning. Every drop of blood essence was quickly turning into a divine light, and the essence was spreading in all directions. It was as if they were filled with power in an instant. It was as if they were undergoing a sublime transformation. Boom! These blood essences were all Sakura's flesh and blood. In the place where he originally stood, there was only a blood-colored heart that was still beating powerfully as usual. Every time it beat, countless bolts of lightning would be devoured by the heart. The beating sound was abnormally powerful. After an unknown amount of time, when all the blood essences that were spread out were completely devoured by the lightning, there was a loud bang. Suddenly, all the blood essences that were spread out in all directions rushed toward the heart at the same time, like swallows returning to their nest, and instantly gathered there. Under the miraculous power of creation that the blood essences absorbed, when the blood essences gathered together, all the blood essences immediately seemed to have a life of their own. They continued to condense and churn rapidly. In the blink of an eye, a huge black demon tiger was reborn just like that. Its body was abnormally huge, like a huge mountain, and it stood in the Tribulation Cloud. It immediately began to swell violently as if it had gone crazy. Countless black hairs on its body burst out with a black demonic light that flowed continuously. Its entire body seemed to be covered in a divine light. When the surrounding lightning struck its body, it did not damage the reborn demon body. Instead, it continuously flowed into the body through the countless pores on its body. In the body, starting from the heart, there were a total of 13 translucent meridians. They were like channels in the body that ran through every part of the body. They formed a complete meridian diagram. 2 front paws, 2 back paws, each meridian connected to the 5 viscera and 6 bowels. The blood essence in the body flowed continuously along the meridians. 365 meridians were distributed to every corner of the body according to the number of cycles in the sky. All the meridians emitted a bright divine light that made the blood and flesh in the body shine with divine light. It was as if it had been completely divinized. All the bones in the body went from being shattered to being reassembled. It could be said that it had undergone a complete metamorphosis. At this moment, the surface of the bones, which were already abnormally hard, began to faintly emit a jade-like divine light. It was just like the indestructible skeleton that he found in the withered bone wilderness that was almost impossible to destroy. Of course, it had not reached that level of strength now. It was only the surface that had begun to transform, but it had already made the bones in the body stronger than before. The power of creation absorbed from the tribulation clouds continued to pour into the bones in the body, slowly causing the bones to transform. They became even stronger. The 13 demonic veins represented all the desires of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Once the formation was formed, it immediately produced an incomparably huge attractive force that attracted the power of desire in the world. It directly formed a vortex of desire in the sky above the tribulation clouds. A huge amount of power of desire endlessly gushed into the body from every pore in the body. In the past, only the demonic veins that had been formed could be absorbed. However, now that all the demonic veins had been formed and connected to the body, it immediately caused a strange change to the body. Every inch of the skin and every pore could absorb the power of desire in the world without any hindrance. It entered the body and the demonic abode. At this moment, the demonic abode also underwent a huge change. Its area had expanded by at least 10 times compared to before. Its area was even wider and could accommodate even more demonic chi and power of desire. However, these power of desire all gushed into the demon refining cauldron. The liquid that was originally filled with the cauldron had strangely disappeared. Instead, a bead the size of a soybean appeared in front of the eyes. This bead was incomparably pure black in color, and light constantly circulated on its surface. Inner elixir. This was the inner elixir condensed by the demon clan. The liquid had been compressed and refined countless times, but in the end, this inner elixir was the size of a soybean. Although it was not big, the demonic chi in this inner elixir was the purest. Compared to the inner elixir condensed by an ordinary demon clan, even if it was the size of a longan, it might not be as large as the demonic chi in this inner elixir. This was because Di Shirtion possessed the heaven-grade demonic abode and the demon refining cauldron, which could refine all the impurities in the demonic chi at any time and maintain its incomparable purity. During the condensation of the inner core, the demonic chi was compressed endlessly until it could no longer be compressed. This resulted in the inner core that was only the size of a soybean. In fact, when the inner core was first formed, it was only the size of a pearl that was as thick as a thumb. However, it was forcefully compressed into its current state. The inner core in the cauldron was surrounded by a layer of black fog. This black fog was the boundless power of desire. This power of desire faintly had the tendency to fuse with the inner core. However, it was as if there was a natural barrier separating them, and there was no way for them to truly fuse. The power of desire was still the power of desire, and the demonic chi was still the demonic chi. The enormous power of desire was constantly being refined by the demon refining cauldron. The black fog condensed into a black liquid that fell into the cauldron. The inner core slowly rotated. Suddenly, a wave of pitch-black demonic chi was spat out from the demonic abode continuously. It rushed out of the demonic abode and surged into the 13 demonic veins in his body. The demonic chi circulated rapidly. Everywhere the demonic chi reached, the meridians in his body would shine brightly. Every inch of his flesh was jumping with joy. Roar! The tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. In an instant 2 threatening rays of light shot out from his eyes and into the tribulation cloud. The tribulation clouds rolled violently and were forced to retreat by the divine light. The imperial mark on his forehead flashed wildly. Suddenly, the blood plate opened its mouth and let out a tiger's roar. It sucked fiercely in front of it. Crash! Suddenly, the wind and clouds changed. The tribulation clouds were sucked into the blood plate's mouth at a terrifying speed. The huge tribulation clouds were disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, the blood plate's body became a bottomless pit, swallowing the massive amount of power of desire into its body. For a moment, the space shook violently, reverberating with terrifying roars. The sound of the wind. The sound of thunder. It never stopped. Large patches of tribulation clouds disappeared into its mouth. In the blink of an eye, it was completely swallowed. The huge demonic abode stood in the void, directly in the middle of the vortex. Boom, boom, boom! Countless black demon chi spurted out from his body. In this huge amount of demon chi, the Sakra's demon body shrunk at an incredible speed. At the same time, his entire appearance also changed. His 2 hind claws turned into 2 sturdy thighs, his 2 claws turned into 2 arms, and his head also turned into a human's. His long black hair danced wildly in the wind, setting off a different kind of arrogance. Waves of domineering and intimidating aura, as well as the aura of supremacy, also spread out in all directions without any concealment. It's not that I can't speed up the plot, it's just that once the plot develops too quickly, there will be situations where it goes out of control, which will affect the direction of the plot and the overall development of the main storyline. Just like the previous books, there have been situations where I lost control of the plot, so this time, I'm resolutely going down the slow path. In the book, the people who should die will definitely die, and if they don't die, it's just that it's not time for them to die yet. Rest assured, the past few days have been a big turning point in the plot. Even now, I feel like I'm writing too quickly, and I haven't reached the goal in my heart. I won't say too much, but thank you to those who voted and tip. I'll remember all of that in my heart, and I won't forget it. To be continued. If you want to know the future, go to www.chidian.com and there are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 260. He was dressed in a long black robe, and he held the tiger's soul diagonally below his finger. His eyes were slightly closed, and waves of surging and vigorous aura quickly spread out in all directions like a tide. Wherever it went, strange ripples would faintly appear in the air. Countless flowers, plants, and trees in the valley bent down at the same time. The purple king mark on his forehead looked even more mysterious. His entire body was enveloped in a purple light, and his black robe fluttered without any wind. His black hair fluttered wildly behind his head. Combined with his aura, he looked even more insolent. His boundless aura surged towards the heavens and the earth. This was the domineering aura of a king who reigned supreme. The moment his inner core was condensed, he finally completely sublimated and rose to an unprecedented height. Almost in the blink of an eye, he rushed out of the Centauria Valley and the nearby area, covering a huge area of thousands of kilometers. All living beings in this area involuntarily had the thought of submitting to him. It was a kind of worship toward a natural king. It was a kind of joy toward the birth of a king, and it was natural to submit to him. Roar. Howl. All kinds of cries sounded in the mountain forest. Countless living beings prostrated on the ground and looked in the direction of the Centauria Valley with pious gazes. Hundreds of beasts roared in unison, shaking the southern wilderness. This aura, how can it be this kind of aura? He actually has this kind of domineering aura and power? That's impossible. Even if he passed the monster tribulation and condensed his inner core, it's impossible for him to have such a powerful aura that even suppresses me. Perfected Lord Ku Rong looked at Di Shirtian, who was constantly devouring the power of desire in the sky. He was in the vortex with the tiger soul in his hand, and he looked like a living demon that had been reborn. Wave after wave of boundless aura was like a mountain. It was suppressed in the area covered by the aura. Perfected Lord Ku Rong could clearly feel that as the power of desire surged in, Di Shirtian's aura was rising crazily almost all the time. It was as if there was no limit to it, and it was increasing its power without limit. Between the heavens and the earth, who knew how long the power of desire had accumulated over the years? Seeing him was like a residence that could accommodate them. It was like a bottomless pit. Naturally, the energy kept pouring into his body. Ah! True monarch Ku Rong, if you want to harm me, then take my saber, death of gods and devils. His eyes suddenly opened and shot out two beams of divine light. The divine light seemed to contain an unimaginably terrifying power. With just a slight touch, it could bewitch a person's mind and make their mind unconsciously waver. Countless desires arose. The divine light in his eyes was actually multicolored. All sorts of emotions and desires were entangled in his eyes, constantly alternating with each other. It was very strange. It made people unconsciously sink into it. It was terrifying. When he spoke, his tone seemed to contain an endless amount of coldness. It seemed like a normal sentence, but when he spat it out, it caused a terrifying chill to appear in the air around him. It spread out, and no matter how high his cultivation base was, he would not be able to withstand it. He could not help but feel a chill in his body. The moment he opened his eyes, he turned the tiger soul in his hand and stabbed the saber into the terrifying vortex outside his body. Instantly, countless pitch-black power of desire poured into the tiger's soul. Once it was poured in, the tiger's soul immediately emitted a golden saber light that was tens of thousands of feet long. Waves of powerful energy were condensing in the saber. Roar! The saber kept humming softly, and there was a faint tiger roar coming from it. It seemed unusually domineering. Standing alone in the void with the tiger's soul, his entire body was like a peerless demon that dominated heaven and earth. The vast and mighty aura contained an endless amount of pressure. At this moment, there was only true Lord Ku Rong in his eyes. Sure Tian, you must be careful. If I'm not mistaken, this true Lord Ku Rong should be a powerhouse who has been cultivating since ancient times. He's injured and his strength has been greatly reduced, but his body is extremely tough, and his various divine abilities and secret skills are extremely impressive. Chen Shi saw Di Shirtian's powerful appearance. Although he was delighted, he still could not help but remind him. Kill! Di Shirtian did not hesitate at all. His eyes suddenly focused, and he strangely withdrew all the power in his body in an instant and applied it to the tiger's soul. He shouted coldly, and the demonic vitality in his body circulated quickly. A terrifying saber light that was tens of feet long shot out from the tiger's soul saber, and countless figures of gods and demons appeared in the saber. Clang! With a flick of his wrist, the tiger's soul immediately followed the trajectory of heaven and earth and slashed at true Lord Ku Rong. Once the saber was out, the gods and demons that were flickering in the saber seemed to have been resurrected. They rushed out of the tiger's soul like lightning, holding the same saber in their hands. Every demon god's figure was different. It was as if they were all living beings. Thousands of gods and demons flew out. These gods and demons danced around the tiger's soul, completely covering the space under the saber. The sabers in their hands were slashed out immediately, and every slash followed the trajectory of heaven and earth. When they were slashed out, not only did the saber contain the power of gods and demons, but it also contained the power of heaven and earth. Even if it slashed a mountain peak, it would be split in half. When the saber was slashed out, the space covered by the gods and demons under the tiger's soul seemed to be completely confined, and everything was shrouded under the endless power of the gods and demons. It was as if this saber was going to destroy heaven and earth. This saber was going to cut through the firmament. The power was so great that it was as if one was in the sky and the other was on the ground before the breakthrough. There was a fundamental upgrade. What kind of combat skill is this? It can actually form gods and demons. These gods and demons are all real. How can a junior like you master such a powerful combat skill? True Lord Ku Rong had already lost count of the number of times he had been surprised today. Sakra's body had subverted his common sense almost all the time. When he looked at the terrifying fiend god Sorrow again, he realized that the power contained within it truly possessed a mighty power that could make even fiend gods die. Under the combat skill, his eyebrows were twitching wildly. An unprecedented sense of crisis emerged in his heart. He could vaguely feel that this war of the gods and demons had a terrifying power that could completely kill him. It could make him completely annihilate. Without thinking, his mind moved. Countless long vines grew rapidly from the ground and became extremely slender. In an instant, they weaved a barrier made of ancient vines around him. It blocked above his head. With a flash of light in his hand, a withered yellow bell appeared above his head. There were countless flowers and trees on the surface of the bell. The influence of these flowers and trees appeared on the bell and quickly formed a scene of alternating withering and flourishing. The bell contained the true meaning of withering and flourishing with each passing year. Those who looked at it could not help but feel like they were completely immersed in it. The material of the bell was also very strange. It was not made of any metal, but of various spiritual wood. Strictly speaking, this bell could be considered a wooden bell. There were also countless runes flowing on it. Howl! Countless gods and demons rushed over and slashed at the countless ancient vines. The toughness of the ancient vines was definitely not inferior to that of 10,000-year-old vines. Even ordinary magic treasures might not be able to cut them easily. However, at this moment, facing countless gods and demons who were brandishing their sabers, each of them could be said to have infinite power. It was comparable to the full power attack of a nascent soul realm cultivator. Now, there were thousands of gods and demons, which was almost equivalent to thousands of nascent soul realm cultivators attacking at the same time. The power was so strong that even cultivators above the nascent soul realm, even those who were at the peak of the human world, would definitely be cut into thousands of pieces if they were to face it head-on. The barrier woven by the ancient vines did not have the ability to block at all. Under the sharp light of the countless sabers, it was completely cut into thousands of pieces and broke apart. Although the ancient vines had amazing vitality and could be regenerated after being cut, they no longer had the ability to block the sharp light of the saber. In the blink of an eye, they appeared above true Lord Ku Rong. He could vaguely feel the sharpness of the tiger soul and the mighty fiend god Qi of the demon gods. It was as if the sky above his head had completely collapsed. A mighty force that was like a mountain and a prison was exerted on his body. It caused his expressionless face to become abnormally ugly. There was a faint look of fear in his eyes. Bell of reincarnation, withering and flourishing with each passing year. Perfected Lord Ku Rong hollered to boost his courage. With a single thought, he saw the ancient wooden bell above his head vibrate all of a sudden. Dong! An ancient bell rang from the ancient bell. As soon as the bell rang, circles of sound waves immediately spread out in all directions like a tide. Wherever they passed, the space was first distorted before it completely collapsed and was completely destroyed. The sound waves spread out in all directions, and the countless precious flowers in the valley were all turned into dust as if they were blown by a strong wind. The valley shook violently as if there was an earthquake. At the same time, the ancient bell emitted wisps of divine light. In the light, countless flowers and trees emerged at the same time and appeared above his head. These flowers and trees all emerged from the bell. It had to be said that this ancient bell was definitely a rare treasure. When the bell rang, it shook the void. Countless gods and demons rushed over and bore the brunt of the attack. They were crushed into dust on the spot. In an instant, hundreds of gods and demons were annihilated. However, the remaining gods and demons did not hesitate at all. Their battle sabers followed the trajectory of heaven and earth and slashed down sharply on the ancient bell. At the same time, the most powerful slash was the one made by the tiger soul itself. The golden saber light was hundreds of feet long. It really shook heaven and earth. It was filled with endless power of desire, one's own demon primordial energy, and even an endless aura. It was all gathered in this slash. Clang! Without any surprise, Tiger Soul mercilessly hacked at the ancient bell. Immediately, the boundless might within the blade caused the ancient bell to shake violently, emitting a series of bell chimes. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.